the Galactic Soul, the Honorable Brother, the Revolutionary yourself, Darius Lockhart, and I'm here to tell you to watch Powerbombshells every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's right, every Sunday at 1 p.m., and that's on time, every time, because when we stand together, what time is it? That's right, it's nation time.
Welcome to Powerbombshells episode 152. I am Mel, that is Sam, and we are just two broads talking about the wrestling we watch, which was a lot this week.
Yes.
A lot of excellent wrestling to talk about this week.
Yeah, lucky for us. There was a lot of good wrestling, and there's even some good wrestling that I haven't even gotten a chance to get to yet because the Jersey J Cup is this weekend that they do with GCW. Last night was round 1. And today is round 2, so I don't know when I'll hopefully get to at least some of it tonight. Because last year, I think we've watched the last couple Jersey J Cups. That last year was really, really good, and they had a good roster. They had a lot of good talent. And then today, actually, I think it's tonight's match. Mance Warner is wrestling Gabe Kidd.
Oh. Yes, please.
Yeah. So, right. So it's so that's just, I think that's I'm assuming well, maybe not the main, because I think the cup final is the main, but I believe that's one of the matches in between rounds or something. I don't know. I tried not to I didn't look at today's brackets because I didn't want to be spoiled on who didn't go through yesterday.
You don't want to dig too deep. I managed to get all the way to Grand Slam without getting spoiled.
I didn't get spoiled either. And I saw a few people saying, thanking the Australian crowd for not posting anything. And I think that's why things didn't leak, because I think that a lot of the crowd was just really respectful and
they were in on it. And I feel like some of the stuff that's on my wrestling feed that's journalists, as it were, even your places that you work for, they were don't go in here if you don't want to be spoiled on Collision. They were very click. This week was one of those moments where it's the international wrestling community came together and actually showed why wrestling is fun and awesome.
Yeah.
And it sort of culminated last night, but it was everybody kept their mouth shut for the most part. And everybody was this has got a spoiler in it. Even in our Discord, they were smart enough. Right at the beginning of the week, they went in there and were like, guys, spoiler thread. This is it right here.
Good. I have a few.
There's ways to do spoilers in.
Yeah,
individually, but we just started a whole thread. So
yeah, I didn't go into Wrestling Inc.'s our day Slack or our general Slack where everybody's in it all day long. I didn't go into it until last night when I was on duty for Collision coverage, and I told them that I somehow had not been spoiled. And it was weird because here it finally started, Collision finally started at 10:52 last night. And in the UK, and I know it was already on Max, but we watch Collision on TNT because if I need to pause or rewind and go back and catch something for the live stuff, it's easier to do because Max is a little bit more difficult. And so but I think it may have started early on Max, but I know one of our writers, whose name is actually Max, he's in the UK, and he was getting Kenny and Will's entrances while we were still watching the end of the post stuff with the NBA stuff. And so he was at least nice enough to so he was a match ahead all night long. And he knew who won Mercedes and, between Mercedes and Harley, he knew all of those, but he was nice enough to not spoil it because it was just 3 of us. It was me, Max, and my editor, because some of the writers had been there earlier because Vengeance Day for NXT was at 6:00 last night. And so they had a ton of writers in there for that. And so luckily Max was nice enough. I mean, he joked that he was they're showing the thing. And he was oh my God, they just spoiled Josh Alexander's debut, which I knew he was joking, but I was and then he told me, he got to the main event. And I was it hasn't started for us yet. And he's well, spoiler alert, a woman won. And I was damn it, Max, I went all day without seeing a spoiler. And you just told me. that a woman won the main event. How dare you? But I did try to stay off of Twitter when I could, but Twitter likes to just show you things out of order because I got yes, it was the Tuesday for us when New Japan aired. So I went to check. I had something in my inbox, and so I went to because that was the day that the AP report came out.
Oh yeah, okay. So the New Japan show came up in the morning on the 11th, which was Tuesday.
Yeah. So I went to go see what that was, and then when I had to close out because I had to do some of my real job stuff. And
right.
When I logged back in, the first thing I saw was the spoiler from the New Japan main event. I was like, son of a bitch. I was like, I knew it was going to get spoiled for me though, because I was like, I'm in too many slacks to not see it. But
that one I knew was going to get spoiled for me because I forgot to think about it. And then I was like, Joe, but it didn't feel like a spoiler. So, because we had talked at length about it, and I saw as I was thinking about it, and the fact that they're really like doing what they do over there, I just was like, wait a minute, this does make a ton of sense, and it was awesome. So
it was awesome.
And I'm happy.
We're definitely going to talk about it and we'll get to it. But yeah, and I saw a few other spoilers from the show. Like I saw the winner of the tag match, but that wasn't really a spoiler because I assumed that was what was happening. Yeah. And then, but the only thing was funny because our friend of the show, Josiah, was watching like during the day on Tuesday, and he spoiled the return of somebody, and I was like, I can't wait to watch that show tonight. I was like, I've seen a few spoilers, but I didn't see that one. And he was like, I'm so sorry. It was okay. I was like, it's bound to happen in 2025, but I was like, it's all right.
This is the life we lead now. We all know that we instinctively and are being like wired almost to pick up our phone the first thing and go boink and oh shit, there's a show today. So but it
happens. Yeah.
Hello, everyone in the chat, by the way.
Yes, we see all of your comments. We were going to get to them, so I will pop them all up real quick. Thank you for being here. I like Brad. I appreciate the BC Boys reference.
I did chuckle with that. That chuckle was for you, Brad.
Thank you, Maria. We appreciate that very much. Thank you. Yes, it has been a very newsworthy week of wrestling. And Maria said she was lucky enough to avoid. She avoided everyone all day. Yeah, I tried to do it as much as I could.
I did. I got away with it. Grand Slam I did get away with.
Brad said that Triller started at 10:30 while the NBA stuff was still going on Max. Because, they do that. They have to do all their sponsorship crap and talk to people and all that.
But see, the Triller thing is different for the Euro than it is for us because that's what carries because they don't have, they have a very limited, they only have that Sky TV. And that's like satellite, which is expensive it's expensive here, but it's expensive. Like the common person in most of the Euro or that part of which is like Britain and Ireland and those places that use Triller mostly, they don't have most people aren't going to have the money to subscribe to the big giant package to get AEW on their TV. It's usually on at 1:00 in the morning on Fridays.
Max was like, he's like, well, get a VPN and watch Triller. And I was like, I do have a VPN. And he's like, well, then I don't know what to tell you because he was like,
we've had the same.
I was like, I do have a VPN. And I was like, I could flip it over to Max. I was like, but it's just with these. And for the most part, I was able to keep up. There were a couple of matches here and there that I had to rewind a couple of things, but because I was having to do everything in real time, I do want to go back and watch pretty much all of it, I can enjoy it, especially the women's or things I could hear things happening, but as I was typing, and so or I'd see I'd look up and see the end, somebody falling after a move, and then I'd hear commentary say what it was. So which is typically how I watch Collision anyway, and so I do want to go back and. It's on the DVR. I mean, I know it'll be on Max too. I may just watch it through Max just to kind of see what that experience was like. But overall, it was a really good show.
Yeah.
But I guess before we get too far into talking about it, we do want to make a quick note. So Lo she did actually catch the show. from last week, which was great. We appreciate it. And she wanted me to clarify a couple of things about the Wrestling Wind Down event that we mentioned last week. So if you missed the show, Wrestling Wind Down is doing a networking event, Mania weekend, for women in wrestling. We found out, Lo was kind enough to let us know that that is a thing that's invite only. So it's not like a convention where you just walk up and go into different things. And, it is a specific event. And the invites from here, I believe, have already been sent out and accepted. And then the brands that they have, or companies and things like that, they have asked to sponsor them. They went with specific people and brands like us, because we align with what they do, and they align with kind of what we do. Obviously, as a space for women in wrestling, obviously we're open to everybody, but we are two women in this space, and so we were given the opportunity to do a sponsorship for this event, and we are asking you guys for super chats because, like we said last week, we're terrible at asking for them or even mentioning them. And so, any super chats that we get between now and March 17th, or I guess that show before March 17th, will go to this promotion opportunity. And so, last week I don't think we mentioned like what the tier, like what it covers. And so as a sponsor, we will get a logo placement on event materials and promotional assets. We get shout outs on social media, and there's going to be a special YouTube recap video that highlights the weekend. And so they'll shout us out there. And then they're going to have a recap video that will be shared with the wrestling community. And so our logo and stuff will be part of that, which is a really cool opportunity for us. And as we mentioned last week, Lo's been on the show before. Lo is somebody we have purchased things from. She's somebody we support. She supports us. This would be a really cool way to support her and also, promote our show and get it out there in a really cool way. So again, any super chats between now and then will go towards that. I don't know if you have.
So if we're bothering you, that's what we're doing it for. And I think it's okay because we don't ask very much and we totally understand what times we're living in. It's just something that we're reaching out and saying, hey, be a part of this. Yep. Something that will help us out. And it's not like Sam said it last week, and I got to repeat it, is that you don't always know what your money's going to. This is what we're putting it towards, is getting our... Basically, we're putting it back into the show. A little corner of Powerbombshells at Lowe's special event for women in this space doing the kinds of things that we're doing. So if you like what we're doing and you go check her out. But also if you like that and you can spare a dime, Yes. And also, as always, we have our standing for $25. Yep. We will read whatever you want us to. We do have the right to veto anything if it's racist, sexist, homophobic, anything that we feel is inappropriate. We will not read it, and we'll keep your money. So, but if you have anything that you want us to read, for sure. I mean, you don't have to spend $25, but for $25, we'll read anything you want as long as it's in our guidelines. Within the guidelines, and no hate speech, no all of what Sam said, because don't be a dick. And that's we don't allow list. That. This is a non-toxic space for people. We don't allow that. Enjoy it. I mean, we do cover some serious stuff because we have to hold some people accountable for their crap. But at the end of the day, we're trying to the reason we're holding them accountable is because they're crapping on something we like. Right. So we need them to go away and stop being associated with us. Right, please. Please. You're making us look bad. Go on. All right. So now that is out of the way, we will we'll bring it up again and just get used to hearing it for the next few weeks because something that we're really excited about and happy to be a part of. So before we get to Grand Slam reactions and things like that, we'll rewind it back a little bit. And I guess even before New Japan, we'll have to drop. So obviously there were some, we talked about the WWE releases that happened. We talked about on that last week's show, and then AEW had a couple of their own just a few days later. So Aleister Black was not a release. His contract expired the day before the releases happened. So he's free and clear
no release was
Right.
negotiated.
His
for
was
him.
just the end of his thing, and it was
Right,
done.
and he's free to go back to WWE. They've been hinting at him the last 2 or 3 weeks. They've been referencing the Dark Arts, which is the name of him and Zelina have a wrestling school, and it's called the Dark Arts Wrestling something or other, or it's got Dark Arts in the title. So they've made references to it. It's clearly a reference to Alistair. Sounds like he's going to be involved with, I think it was, believe it is it Karrion Kross that was mentioned him. I just blanked on who it was, but they've made references, so it appears.
Well, that would make some sense, probably. So,
and he's on the clearly. It sounds like he's going to SmackDown. That's where Zelina is, and SmackDown, being a 3-hour show, needs all the help it can get.
oh my God, yeah.
This past Friday's episode was one of the most tedious episodes I've ever watched. There was a segment with. So it came out with Shinsuke, and Shinsuke's like having like this challenge or something like that. And I was like, watch, it's going to be, I was like, what if it's Rusev or something like that? I just thought it would be funny.
Could happen.
No, LA Knight, who he's been feuding with for months. I'm not an LA Knight fan. I've never been a fan of his. I didn't care for him in TNA. I mean, I caught him at the end of TNA, and some people were like, that's probably why you probably just didn't. I was like, no, I just have never. I don't, he's not for me. He's for you, great. For me, he is not. And then The Miz comes out here. I was like, oh God. It was so bad that I had to literally tune it out. Like it's literally one of the worst segments I've ever seen. And I tweeted, I said, thank God I get paid to watch this, because there's no way. It was just they were whining and just going back and forth. And then Miz was like fake crying, and it was obnoxious. Then it led to a match that I didn't care about, and it wasn't even a number 1 contenders match. It was just a match, which LA Knight still won. So like it was a waste of time. And so SmackDown, again, is already a chore to get through, but then, and apparently I saw last night, they have rehired Road Dogg to be
I saw that this morning.
He's as a co-lead writer, and apparently people were joking that he's the one who wrote that segment, which he might have been. I wouldn't put it past him, because when Road Dogg was there before, he did some some of SmackDown's worst stuff. So I'm not looking forward to him being back.
All right. I just would like to quick announcement for the WWE. It is not the 1900s anymore. And the kids don't want to see your 1900s wrestlers. And I say that as somebody who enjoyed them back in the 1900s a great deal, to a degree, some more than others. But that was a generation that I was old enough to watch in college and late high school. So I was pretty much a young adult. But also, I'm going to be honest, and part of it is like moral support, so I can like retweet your tweets and stuff like that, and your socials and stuff. But I'm not gonna lie, I get there's a little bit of Schadenfreude on Friday nights on wrestling socials for me.
I get it,
especially after a week like this.
Yeah.
Although I did catch myself because I was gonna watch the Noah show on Wednesday, and I was like, no. Don't do that, because if you do that, then you'll watch AEW and then you'll be comparing them because you just watched them. The only time I can't get away from that is like G1 season, because there's pretty much every day.
Yes.
And so and I can't help it, because I really just I'm pro, man. I just New Japan is my I think it's my number one. And especially we'll get to it, but it's just one of those things. So it's got to be like, you are a champ. You are my hero. And so I go on there to retweet your articles and stuff like that for Friday. But I'm not going to lie when I say that I do get a kick out of watching even the fan base kind of whinge about, like, this is real fans going, okay, even I hate this. And I'm like, I'm just saying, your own fans are annoyed by it. And you guys have so much equity with your fans. I don't know. To me, I thought they had unlimited equity with their fans, considering
apparently some of them, apparently SmackDown is pushing that for some of them, because it's a chore to get through. I'm giving JR
his last book back after he retweeted a congratulations to a person that enabled a pedophile for over a decade.
I'm not
so
surprised.
I'm gonna just go ahead and return that. I didn't read it yet, and I'm gonna go ahead and return that
I
because
don't blame you.
I can't vote with anything but my wallet at this point, and that's
Sure.
I wanted to know how it ended, and then that happened.
Yeah. Well, that's understandable. Yeah.
They've all been brainwashed by the like McMania.
Yeah.
It's made
Well, and that's the thing that some of it
and derangement syndrome.
And I know that some of it, like we talked about, like they did what they had to survive that environment for so long. Like, and so it's at some point
it's hard.
You would hope there's a line. But anyway, so backing all of that up.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent on SmackDown.
No, that's totally my fault because
SmackDown needs Alistair, is my point.
He'll be good wherever he is, and I'm sure he'll be He'll be happier and back to where he is. And I can keep making the Rusev joke when Miro finally gets back there because when he arrives, I'm sure that'll be a great Rusev day for everybody. Maybe what's that dude who used to do his? Maybe they'll bring him back. He was a lot of fun.
He was Aiden English for a while. His real name. Why did I just blank on him? But he works for TNA. He does commentary. Wait, is he still doing commentary for them, or did they finally? No, they released him, right? Because he was doing commentary for them. He did commentary for.
Mike Gilbert needs to move to our time zone so we can get him on the horn about stuff.
I just because I don't keep up with it anymore, and I was like, wait, is he still there?
He would know though, but we can't tap him at well, we can, but he won't be awake. Right. Plus it's a weekend, so he's enjoying his family.
Somebody in the chat might know, but he did commentary for Impact for like the last basically ever since he's been gone. Yes, Matthew Raywalt. Yes, okay, he is still there. He was doing some.
We love you. Happy birthday.
Yes, I did see Josh Matthews was released along with Christy Hemme. I saw that, and I saw that the guy that they was it Chacon that they hired to replace Scott D'Amore, he left. Mike says it was reported this week that he was released, but Mike says he was gone back in December. It sounds like Anthem is putting in all of their people. They're getting rid of I think Gail Kim might be like one of the only few safe people from the old regime, but it sounds like Anthem is cleaning house from people who were there with Scott D'Amore, and they're installing their own people now.
Finally, they're completely washing away the last of it. I mean, because the heads of it, from what I remember, were Anthem people, and then it was like slowly chiseling away at the rest of it. So but yeah, this is what companies do, though. They do takeovers now, where they absorb the thing and they turn it into something else, or they split it up and sell it off, or
right. And now they've got the partnership with WWE and things like that, and so we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, so officially now, so Rusev, I'm sure, will come back. So Miro and Ricky Starks were granted their releases.
Oh, that's it.
And so we saw so Rusev we have not seen yet. Alistair is probably incoming at any point. And then Ricky Starks just showed up on NXT. I think they were released on a Thursday? Ricky Starks won the Defy title on Friday, and then that Tuesday he showed up in NXT. He comes through the crowd. The fans are chanting Ricky Starks. He just says, "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." He doesn't say his name. He gets a huge reaction. And then he was supposed to be at an indie show in Georgia last night. He was pulled from that show, but from what I understand was not. I don't think he was I could be wrong. I don't think he was even in the audience for Vengeance Day. I know they aired a video. He will be on NXT this Tuesday signing his contract. And then we'll find out more about him. And so some people were like, oh, he's not using the name Ricky Starks because he can't. But it turns out that what it likely is Ricky Starks owns the trademark to his name. And he is will be like Jordan Grace. Right. He will basically be leasing his name to them, but he will still own everything. Right. And because it happened so quickly, they wanted to make sure all their I's were dotted and their T's were crossed. And
so they read their history and they learned from Bruiser Brody, who did the same thing many, many moons ago. And kids out there, for future wrestling people, trademark your name.
Yes.
Trademark it.
Trademark what you
Because
can. Trademark your catchphrases.
And go read about Bruiser Brody was one of the first people that did that way back when he was, wrestling all over it, so that they could not, when he went to the WWE way back, that short stint he did, or the short stints he did, because they were still sharing a little bit. He had trademarked his name though, so he was way ahead of the curve.
And Jordan Grace owns her theme song, so
Smart.
she can take
like
it.
Christian does.
Yeah, so she owns her, and so that we were talking about it, I assume because Ricky's was a Mikey Ruckus original that he does not.
Oh, that's awesome! Dope.
I don't believe he gets to take that with him. I believe Mikey's
really smart about the way he distributes and keeps his music.
It's
made for the. He seems like someone that just makes it for the person, and that's it. They own it, and they.
I don't know if Ricky owns his song. It's a Mikey Ruckus original, so that's what I'm saying. Mikey Ruckus created that.
So he might be. No, I'm not letting you have your WWE.
I don't know.
Make a new song.
I don't know if AEW owns. I assume AEW owns the right to that song. Because
they could be releasing the rights.
Mikey works for AEW to create music, so I assume.
Oh, I didn't realize he was full time. I thought he did his.
No, he's been full time for a long time.
Oh, really? Sure. That's cool.
Yeah.
I just thought he does so much. I see him doing so much all the time, but I guess it makes sense because virtually everybody. AEW has his theme music now.
Most of them do. Yes, I think so. I'm pretty positive. I could be wrong about that, but. So my guess is Ricky's gonna have his own theme music, and I just hope that Def Rebel is not the one creating for him, because Def Rebel is terrible with theme songs. They all suck. They're not memorable. Everybody gets confused and doesn't know who it. It really showed at Royal Rumble, because people couldn't recognize music to figure out who people were until they saw him on the screen. It's a mess, and his music is terrible. He's awful. And I don't advocate.
And you know stuff about music, so I take you very seriously.
I don't advocate for people losing their jobs unless it's deserved, and I don't necessarily mean this is deserved, but I just.
It's not about losing a job. It's like if you're not working up to the standard of something that makes.
Awful.
If this sounds like crap, then you're not the artist for this.
No, he's like, I forget who his dad is. He has a famous dad. He's a Nepo baby. Yeah, he's a Nepo baby who has no business creating theme music. And it's just awful. So I'm hoping Ricky went to somebody and was like, please, maybe, I don't know, maybe he got
Hopefully
downstate.
That's part of his deal.
Downstate, they made Kingdom for Cody. They just made Indy Hartwell's new theme song on Friday. Maybe Ricky's like, please help me. Please give me a cool song, because I can't let that man ruin my entire, because I can't imagine, because Ricky's entire presentation, what it is, and then to have shitty theme music, he can't have that. He needs to have, obviously Jordan has her music, and I thank God she owns her own, and they didn't give her any, terrible music. So yeah, that's what happened. I think it was Maria said Ricky Starks appearing in NXT was the most predictable signing. It was predictable. I just didn't expect it right then. They're all free. They're all free and clear. There's no 90 days for the three of them that were released. And obviously Ricky Starks is a situation like Jordan, where we knew the minute their contract was done, they were going to WWE. Whether because apparently contract negotiations, they say in December they weren't talking to Ricky, which maybe they weren't, but they've been talking to Ricky prior to that, or somebody in that company, Cody Rhodes, have been talking to Ricky. They had some sort of something, not a deal in place, but a place hey, if you come here, this is what we'll do. Because Ricky's contract was going to be up this year, I think, right? Or was it next year? His contract was close to he was not going to be in AEW much longer, one way or another.
And he wasn't happy there anyway, so I think that it was just a working out a thing, and then you're done, you're free and clear, you're free to go. And
yeah, and so I think the timing of it, I feel So he won the Defy title. And I think when he won the Defy title and the plan was for him to win it, I don't think that they knew that Tony was going to let him go. Like AEW had no intention of letting him go for months. So I think they all went into it thinking, all right, well, Ricky is free to do indies. Why not put the title on him for a little bit until his contract is up, and then, we'll figure it out. But then they put the title on him, and then the release happened. And I don't think that was, and then WWE obviously swooped in, but they did the same thing with Jordan. Like they signed Jordan as soon as her contract with TNA was up. And in
the meantime, my local promotion has a WWE ID person who is our champion.
Right.
And the Motor City Machine Guns were our tag team champions and then went to WWE like while they were still holding the belts, because we had to have a championship off for someone to pick up the belts and everything. But so I got to do this real quick, Sam, because I told you I was going to do it. Put my tinfoil hat on here. But I have noticed a pattern. There's 3 companies, I think, this week that were independent companies, 2 of which had, and I can't remember the third one right this, I should have written it down, but there were 3 different indies around the country where a champion or somebody did, like ours did a crossover match with WWE and has a WWE ID contract. There's Ricky Starks with the Defy title and the whole thing. And then there was one other one that I was putting together. So tinfoil hat on. It feels a little like pre-pandemic WWE Triple H working his way into stealing indie folks.
I think in some cases, yes. I think with Ricky Starks, no.
Take this off.
I don't think so. With
want to
Ricky.
get your feel on that.
I think the timing with Ricky was not planned. Like they've been planning on Ricky leaving at some point, whether that was the end of his contract or whatever. I don't think they expected Tony to suddenly just be like, you know what? We're done with you. Let's just cut it. And so I don't think the Defy would have put the title on him if they had any expectations of AEW releasing him. And I feel like, in the other situations, yes, they probably are doing some pre-pandemic things because that's what they do. They get scared. They panicked when the AEW was a thing, and they hoarded all these wrestlers and didn't use them and just put them that way. They couldn't sign with AEW before AEW was actually even a thing. Like before, so that happened, and I can definitely
just the rumors of AEW were enough for them to go out and start.
And I do feel like that is what WWID is for, and the Evolve stuff is to put indie talent somewhere so that they can't get signed elsewhere. But I feel like Ricky is kind of an exception to that because they were already talking. Like Ricky, we all knew Ricky was going to WWE, just like Jordan. Like Jordan was going nowhere else. AEW was not even like, I don't think they had a chance with her. I don't think they had a chance. I think Ricky was automatically going. I think the timing just ended up working, and that's why WWE they were immediately just brought him out on Tuesday, not saying your name, not playing music, nothing, because we have to have you right now. Like we've got to make sure
out there, like...
right. But I feel like, but it sucks because the Defy, they just put that title on him, and so Defy's going to get screwed. But in this case, I don't think that was their intention. I think the timing is just weird. But with other wrestlers in the ID program, yes, I do agree with you that they are snatching up people from the indies all over again because this is what they do. Mercedes is correct. Mercedes was doing a Q&A on her flight to Brisbane on Friday. Somebody asked her, who would you like to wrestle who is not signed with AEW? And she said, if I say it, the other place will sign them. She is correct.
Wow. because wrong.
Stephanie Vacker was right there, was in talks with depending on who you talk to, was in talks with the AEW, maybe not have been in talks yet, but talks were likely. It depends on who you're talking to. But it seemed likely that Stephanie Vacker was most likely going to AEW at some point. She had that banger match with Mercedes. Fans were going crazy. And all of a sudden, she gets signed out from under them from WWE. She gets pulled from her New Japan commitments that she had. They had to scramble and throw Willow into a match and temporarily put a title on Willow in New Japan because of or not New Japan, that was CMLL, I'm sorry. In CMLL, they had to, because she was the champion.
Yeah.
And then they didn't use her for a little bit. Then they went to Mexico, and I think they used her. And then last night, they put a belt on her. So she went from like an 8-month period. She was wrestling, about to sign with AEW, and here she is in WWE with the title. Which I think is going to be kind of rare. Like, I think that they will sign people away, but I don't think they're going to sign them away and then turn around and make them champion. But I think they're using that, like, hey, look at Stephanie. Stephanie did this, and we made her champion. That doesn't mean it's going to happen.
So they have an example of it to throw out there, sort of a bait.
We brought in Jade Cargill. She's a tag team champion now. I mean, she's been in the storyline, this injury storyline, and she's not wrestled in several months. But like, so they have that, and they can be like, so we did this with Jade. Look at Ricky. We signed him immediately, and he showed up on TV, and everybody's talking about him. Like, Motor City came in, and they won the tag team titles in their 3rd match on their 2nd night in the company. Like, they can use these things to look at Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is the world champion.
Yep.
They can show all these little things to sell it to them. Of course, not all. Some of these wrestlers they get, sure, they'll get these things. But Miro coming back, like Rusev, maybe he gets the United States Championship, perhaps, but like that's probably his ceiling. Alistair, they could do the same thing with, but most of them are not going to get titles. They might get title shots.
They're highlights. They're like they're attractions. They're part of like a bigger. They can do crazy stuff on the side and not actually wrestle and stuff,
right?
Or kind of wrestle, or have like start to wrestle and then have multi shenanigans going on.
Yeah, and so it's just it's definitely going to be interesting to watch it play out. We've watched it before. Do you think
that's going to sour the relationship with Defy and Tony, or do you think that it was just
because that wasn't Tony's fault? I don't think, and who knows when they were negotiating.
Business and shit happens sometimes.
That, and negotiating takes a while. He may have had no clue that Defy was planning to put a belt on him, and they've got Swerve.
Yeah, why would he? I mean, it's not like he's asking around, checking with other companies,
right? And like you've got and Defy uses Nick Wayne. They use Swerve. They just had an angle with Swerve and Nana and Ricochet that same night that Ricky won the title. So I feel like their relationship is probably okay. I think the thing with Ricky was just kind of a fluke thing nobody really expected the timing of it to happen. There have been rumors. I don't know how accurate they are because the person I saw them from is not necessarily accurate all the time. So I would take it with a grain of salt, but there were rumors that they are potentially negotiating to release Rey Fenix. Again, take it with a grain of salt because the person I saw it from, and the thing with Rey, even if that person was reliable, Rey Fenix, every time something gets reported to him about him, like it changes 24 hours later. So unless he says I'm released, I'm gone, or he shows up in WWE, that's when I'll believe it because things change with Rey so often. However, it got me thinking, if Tony is releasing people and they don't want to be there or that they are just, there's nothing happening there and they're healthy, then I would like him to release Scorpio Sky because they aren't doing they're wasting him. He's been, as far as I know, he's healthy and has been healthy for a while. He was injured for a period, got healthy again. They show the vignette talking about it seemed to imply a character change for him. Nothing. A few weeks later, he's a private party right before, a couple weeks before they won the title, they were doing one of their backstage segments where they were going to a club. Scorpio Sky was with them. We have not seen him since. He's not mentioned. They don't talk about him. So if we're releasing people who don't want to be there or you don't want to book or do anything with, then please let Scorpio Sky go.
I mean, he could go do some work.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's getting paid, but I don't know. I wonder how he feels.
Yes. If he would like to be released, then let him go. because you're wasting him. And you've been wasting him. And Scorpio Sky is a guy that should have been in where AEW was going at the time before they brought in the Danielson, Cole, Punk. Before that, when that direction they were heading, Scorpio Sky should have been a world champion. Within
so funny because I almost wore it. I thought I grabbed my SCU shirt, and I was thinking about those guys, and I was thinking about all this stuff with him coming in and working with them and kind of switching in and out with Frankie Kazarian and how great they all were. And I'm like, that was their like tag. That tag division was amazing, and that was their first tag team champions right there. Yep. And I'm like, they're just.
They were the very
first. Chris Daniels is doing a great job at what he's doing, and it's fine.
Right.
But it's just weird. It's like, what?
And Kaz is apparently, Kaz is apparently very happy in TNA. He bet on himself. AEW wasn't using him.
But then I guess let Scorpio Sky go. If you're not using him and you don't want him, unless he's just happy getting a paycheck from them, which we can't know because it's pure speculation. Let him go wrestle so he can go wrestle.
Yeah, if you've watched this show, you know that I'm a big fan of his. I think that Scorpio is great. And if he doesn't want to be there and they have no plans on using him, then let him go and let him go be somewhere else, because this is not. I hate that for him. And you're apparently bringing in Speedball is expected at any point now. Supposedly Josh Alexander is on the way in as well. And so
I think we had a question about that. And
yes,
the answer is
I do believe that. The reason is I expect, until Brad told me, and I'm not saying that saying that Brad is incorrect, but assuming he is correct in the fact that Ethan and Josh had a falling out, then I would not be surprised I thought he was WWE bound up until I found out that information. But then also Josh had a thread on Twitter a couple of nights ago when he had his last match in TNA aired, and he said that he thought when Ethan left to go to AEW, he had 1 year left on his contract, and he expected to follow Ethan to AEW. And then he did a New Japan show, and Scott said, Scott offered him a 3-year deal. And so he took the 3-year deal because that was best for him and his family at that time. So maybe he already wanted to go to AEW, had planned to, because that was where he thought he was going to go. And he assumed Ethan was going to be there. So maybe that's where he still wants to be. Maybe they already had some kind of plans for him. And then I was like, when and if he shows up in AEW, I was like, somebody's got to post that clip of Brandy where she looked at Ethan Page and said to him, "We signed you to get to your tag team partner." I think that was said because that happened. That happened. I think about that all the time. And I think the reason that was said is because Josh was supposed to go. And then he ended up signing a 3-year deal, and then things soured. The things didn't go well with Ethan, and he decided that he wanted to go do other things. But I feel like, Josh is coming to AEW, and I feel like he will represent AEW in the G1, whether it's this year or next year.
Oh wow, that would be.
I feel like Josh wants. I feel like that's what they're going to do with him, because.
That would be awesome. I am here for that.
Both companies are full of great talent.
Yeah.
That they don't have room for. I don't know where Josh fits in. I don't know where he would fit into WWE unless it's in the North with Ethan. But then how far does that go? You could bring them to the main roster. Obviously, they feuded with Motor City in the past, so you could do that. But on the other hand, where does he fit in AEW? Because things are packed, especially when we've talked about this about all the AARP guys who were trying to get shots. And not that I think Josh is going to come in and automatically try to go for a title, but I don't know where you put him, but I feel like he's likely a better fit for AEW than WWE.
And Tony's still a fanboy at the end of the day a lot. So I think with Revolution coming up, they usually do a couple or at least one big, I mean, that's a major show usually. There's one or two usually big surprises on the Revolution show. And it's already
that's kind of where I thought Speedball was coming in.
Yeah.
Was Revolution. And he still could, but potentially this is where Josh comes in. If it's true that he is coming, but maybe he's taking some time off. Yeah, maybe he shows up at the Strong show in April. I mean,
there you go.
I mean, maybe it's that, and he kind of uses that way in. Like he goes to Strong, does some stuff there, and then.
Although they need stuff for Forbidden Door, because I know that's farther away, but they're still going to need something for it, so they might want to hang on to. I mean, that's a long way off, and that's a lot of whatever. But
yeah, let me get to a couple of these comments over here while we're on this. Yes, I gotta scroll back a little bit.
We're not ignoring you guys.
We appreciate
totally
you.
See your comments. Talking. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yes, and so Brad did confirm that Clive Davis is Def Rebel's dad. I knew it was somebody famous. Clive Davis is one of the biggest record producers in music and has been for decades, and that does not mean that Def Rebel got any.
Doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't mean anything, but that's how this. I'm confident in saying this is how Nepo Baby got a job.
You can call it out.
Wrestling is
the truth is the truth.
I feel that's where that's coming from. So Fernandez says AEW was booking Ricky kind of oddly after his hot feud with Punk, and they cooled him off and put him in a tag team with Big Bill that he didn't want to be a part of. There was some odd booking choices. There's been rumors on both sides. There's been rumors that Ricky was turning down storylines, didn't want anything they offered him because he was waiting to go to AEW. I mean, I'm sorry, WWE. But then there were also rumors that Ricky pitched stuff himself and Tony didn't like it, or Tony told him no, that Tony was keeping him off TV. There was rumors that Ricky kept himself off TV. I assume, as with most things, there's truth to both sides of
everything.
I feel like there's truth to both sides of it. I am a fan of Ricky Starks. I really enjoy him. I feel like some people are better suited for one company over the other. I feel like Ricky might be better suited for WWE. I would have personally, I would have liked to have seen Ricky on TV until his contract ended and then him just go to WWE. Because that's, I mean, in wrestling, I mean, obviously in sports, when people don't like where they're at, they can generally request trades and things like that. Wrestling is a little bit more, no, you're not going to my competition. Because
it's theater kid, correct?
Right, and it's structured differently. So, but I will always be on the side of talent. I want talent to be where they're happy. I want them to get paid well. But again, we don't know all of the details with, some of this could have been, a lot of it could have largely been on Ricky. Maybe Ricky was turning down things that he didn't want to, and he's the one who pulled himself off TV, which would be unfortunate if that's the case. Or just the whole situation is just unfortunate. I feel like Ricky was wasted a little bit in his, 34 is not old, but I feel like we're in his prime of his wrestling career, and he should have been on TV. Whether that's his own fault or Tony's fault, maybe we'll never know the real truth. Who knows? I wish him well. I hope he's happy there. But you look at people like Swerve, and I think Swerve is a better fit for AEW than he was WWE. And some wrestlers just are. Joe Hendry is a WWE wrestler. And his character is perfect for them. And not that I don't think he would have fun in AEW, but look at what
he's a sports entertainer.
Right. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's good for him. I'm glad he found his niche, and it took him a while to get there. Like a lot of wrestlers, he was not the overnight sensation he appears to be. He scratched and clawed for a really long time. So I just hope they're happy. Malachi clearly didn't want to be in AEW 6 months after he signed. Hopefully he has gotten over his issue where he can't be on his back for more than 3 seconds. Hopefully that's, hopefully that's been cleared up, and he can now carry on with his life.
I have pinitis.
hopefully he learns that. Who knows? Maybe that's an affliction he'll carry for the rest of his life.
Sam, in the immortal words of Chico El Luchador, no do job.
Yes. Rusev, there were rumors that sometimes he would also no do job.
Yeah, I've heard that about
and
Rusev.
there were rumors that he was turning down things as well, which I'm not blaming one side or the other
You never know because it's so wild. Like just reading any history book or anybody's like accounting of like these things, it's like this is not real life. Wrestling exists in its own weird bubble on every level, from the business side right down to what you're seeing in the ring. It's its own beast.
Yeah, definitely. So, but I hope wherever they end up, I hope they're happy now. I hope they get what they want. Hope AEW is happy without them. I hope that there's plenty of people to plug in those spots, and supposedly two of them are Speedball and Josh Alexander.
The more work, the better.
Brad says that the WWE Evolve is 100% to get those WWE ID folks under their thumbs. Say goodbye to your local indies. I don't want to be that dramatic, but
which only sucks because because there was a void, a bunch of little promotions have started to sprout, and now just as they're becoming. This is the same old story, though. This is literally a story as old as time. A bunch of people pioneer the new thing, and then the big guy comes in and takes it. And, I guess it's sort of like the inevitability of and the reality of the business. It just makes me sad because it's just getting back to where, like, a couple of promotions are running in my area regularly, and we have places where we can go and see the same talent and see them. And then it's like, oh, we're back to 2016 or 2019
and that's going to keep happening.
And Triple H, the thing that's worse about that is Triple H is in charge, and he was the one that built NXT and did a lot of that infiltrating of all the way out to the UK. I mean, he killed it. You can argue pretty soundly that they killed the UK scene. Like, he signed all their guys up, and it kind of petered out for a while. And then the pandemic came, and it's like, don't you touch OTT? Don't you touch RevPro? You stay on this side of the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, I get concerned about places like DPW and things like that. And of course, and that's not to say, look, I want people to get signed and to get paid.
Of course.
That's the thing. But if you are taking them with the intention of keeping them from going to the other place, and you have no intention of booking them properly or using them at all, that's what the issue is. The issue is not that they are signed, because people deserve, like Kevin Knight is a prime example of somebody who has been killing it on the indies. He obviously spent a lot of time in New Japan. He is a free agent. He was in TNA for a bit. I don't think that, maybe there is still room for him in TNA. And I want him to get paid. I want him to get signed, but I also want him to get used. And so maybe if WWE ends up being that place for him, then good for him. Like, I want that. That's not the issue. Of course, I want people to make as much money as possible wrestling, especially when they put their bodies on the line for us in the way that they do. But I don't want them getting signed to the point where some people, and some people are happy with that. Some people are fine with getting signed and sitting and catering and collecting a paycheck. If that's you, more power to you, Carl Anderson. But if you would like to actually wrestle, that I want you. I hope
they had a great relationship with the UK, but it was a great relationship that meant that WWE took over the UK scene. So that's really, it was great for WWE.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. As someone with a friend in that market, like who I've gone to a show with in his exact homeland, it sucked because, OTTs though is LJ Cleary, who has been wrestling on New Japan, has been a pretty regular wrestler. The reason I was like, wait, he's wrestling over here, because he's been pretty regular in, I think, the UK, but I know he's been on OTT shows because John has been like, check this kid out, whatever.
Yeah, and he wrestled when Pac had the international championship not the international championship, the was it the one that was it the international championship? Yeah, that was the one that Pac had, and Pac went and he defended it in the UK, and LJ Cleary was one of them. And then the match aired when it was right before Dark was no longer a thing, and they showed those matches that he went to the UK and defended that title against some of the indie guys there, and they aired them on Dark, and LJ Cleary was one of them. And he was very good from what I remember. And his name seems to come up pretty often when I hear about the UK scene.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sorry to crisscross because I know that Ireland is not the UK, obviously. But
right.
OTT has done a pretty good job for as small as they are in a small area. What would be considered it's kind of like I just started to realize that there's a really big scene in an area near where I grew up in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of wrestlers up there, booking a lot of big names up there, and there's a pretty solid scene up there. So I was shocked. I mean, I was like, whoa, they're booking some pretty solid, indie names up in it's in the Lewiston area. And we have a couple people in Discord who are like, no, Mel, it's gotten crazy. Like there's actually a real indie scene here. And that was not a thing when I was there. I mean, I had most of my indie wrestling experiences started when I started moving away from that far northeast. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, it's hard to judge. I just, that was the, and I mean, from the people that I knew in that area, it kind of was like, bummer, they came in and stole all our talent. So,
it sucks. And they've been having
was what happened here. And for me here, just from my anecdotal experience from Evolve, they came in and stole all our talent.
Right.
I mean, I literally was talking to a wrestler one day that they had just signed, and some dude a handler ran out and was like, no, you can't talk to him about pay. It's like, it was, oh, good Lord. Completely lost the name. This is what getting old and having missing brains is not useful to memory. I'll think of it eventually. But anyway.
Hi, Colin. I saw you here a little bit ago. And
we were commenting backish. So,
yes. And then, Maria points out that AEW has a really bad habit of shelving too much talent, not using them in the rotation.
Agree.
Every week.
Agree.
And I go back to this a lot, and I know it's harder to do, especially now with, you've got Warner Brothers. They've always had Warner Brothers, but the way that AEW runs now, it's more difficult. Different. But I always go back to this thing that Matt Hardy said on his podcast a couple of years ago, that he was like, it would be cool if you had like this group of talent, say 30 wrestlers, 40 wrestlers, you tell stories with them for 8 weeks. And then 8 weeks later, you rotate in a new 30. Those 30 people that were just featured, they can go do other stuff. They can take time off. They can rest their bodies. They can do side projects, whatever. Then these 30 people are who you focus on. Then 8 weeks later, you rotate out you put in the next set, or maybe some of the people from the first set come back and get mixed up with these people so that you're getting fresh matchups and things like that. And, he was like, it would be it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but he was like, it would be a way to keep things fresh, to keep talent fresh, to keep the fans engaged and getting to see new things. And then talent also getting to rest, not having to go constantly. Thankfully, AEW is not a place where they have to wrestle 300 days a year. WWE has backed off some of that schedule with their talent. But so, and it would probably be really hard to do because, people are going to want to see, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher and Mercedes Moné and Tony Storm and things like that. You're going to want to see them all the time. Like if they're coming to your town, like that's who you want to go see. And then if they're rotated out, then it might be their rotation off. And then you've got these new people that you want to see. But I think it's a cool concept. I just don't know how, if somebody, there's a lot to go into that. Cause then you have to remember like what stories you're telling with these people. You have to the stories have to be wrapped up, in an 8-week period. Sure, I guess you can make some leeways and some things go longer, but then like you'd have to wrap up. And then, I don't want 2 months title reigns on people because some people.
Well, moreover, I mean, just as an addition.
I mean,
to
maybe
that
the champions would stay the same, and everybody else around them would rotate. So
what happens if someone gets hurt?
I think they would have reserves, I guess, or you have those talent that. Yeah, I don't know. And maybe it's been a while since I've heard this, so I can't remember if Matt.
You get a giant climate shift, like you have a plague, or
right.
I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, it's definitely not a perfect thing, and you have to.
Don't mind me. I'm over here
catastrophizing
but then you
have to think about. Yeah, I mean, those are all, though, of course, definitely all things you have to think about. Do you have alternatives on hand that way? Or not alternatives, alternates on hand that way? Like, okay, this person got injured. Let's go put Kip Sabian in a match. This person got injured. Where is Serpentico?
I think Tony struggles with. I think Tony struggles with striking when the iron is hot, and a little bit still. And I think he struggles with pivoting when something goes awry.
Oh, he's definitely struggles with pivoting because we've talked about that
because it always seems like when he has a crisis, it's like Jon Moxley.
Yes.
Or Bryan Danielson until Bryan Danielson wasn't there anymore.
Right.
But I mean,
and then
except for the belt.
We talked about that. Like, he lays out his champions. I don't know if he still does, but in the early days, he was laying out his champions a year in advance, and he would not budge unless it was something he absolutely had to budge from because there was like an injury or something like that. But we talked. I mean, it was like the tag team champions. Like, they would not budge from.
That MJF.
That stuff he would not budge from, and he wouldn't. And then they had to call the audible with the Acclaimed that time because the fans straight up and a reporter straight up asked Swerve and Keith Lee, "Do you think you should have dropped the titles?" The hell kind of question is that? But then they had
what
to
are they supposed to say? Come on,
they had to do a rematch 2 weeks later and put the title on the Acclaimed because the Acclaimed were really hot then, and the fans were pissed that they claimed didn't win, and so he's very in most cases he doesn't seem to budge from if it's gonna. I guess it's one thing for a title thing because I mean, even look at you can go all the way back to the Nightmare, not the Nightmare family, but I guess it was Brandy and Awesome Kong and Mel. That storyline was not working for months, and they tried to keep forcing it, and which
made it worse. Actually,
that was still some of the worst booking that AEW has ever had. It was awful, and most people don't even talk about it. That's how bad it was. People don't.
Yes, the Nightmare Collective.
Yes, the Nightmare Collective. I knew that wasn't. I was like, where's that word coming? Thank you. Yeah, I was like. But, people don't even like to talk about it because it was that bad. And for me, I hated the QTV stuff.
Oh, my God.
I hated it.
Don't even.
But he wouldn't pivot away from some of that stuff. And then I guess you could make that argument for the Death Riders, but I think that's because the Death Riders are doing something. As we've talked about now that Death Riders have explained themselves a little bit better, I feel like it's because they have a bigger...
I feel like after this, last night made me actually feel a little better. They're trying to wrap this up, or at least they're gonna they're getting to the point.
Yeah.
If nothing else, if they're not wrapping it up, they're getting to the point.
Maybe they sped up the timeline a little bit because they're like, all right, the fans are just not.
The fans are getting sick of this. We need
to.
But it's like Gato does this. I mean, Gato did the same thing for the longest time, and I know that Rocky learned a lot of things from him and whatever. But Gato did the same thing, but he had to pivot when people just downright got hurt. I mean, they finally had to give Okada a break, and they pissed so many people off when they put the IWGP Heavyweight Championship on Jay White back in the day, and it was like, guys, be patient. Calm down. And then he won it back at Madison Square Garden. It's it's okay. I mean, but he was able to be like, oh, okay, some of these people got hurt along the way and I need to change these things. And it's for anything, I mean, you have to be able to, that's any business person, that's anybody. You in your everyday life have to make adjustments.
Right. I mean, you could even, and I don't want to harp on that situation, but
sure.
The tag team situation also with the Hardy Boys, they were supposed to win those titles, but unfortunately Jeff was arrested, and he went to rehab because he was given a ultimatum: either you go get clean or we're cutting you. And luckily he did, and he appears to be doing really well and really healthy. But sometimes I look at that because like they're the champions in TNA, and they've held titles in every single company they've been in except AEW. And perhaps they'll get that chance again. Maybe they'll just to like on their way out, maybe they'll get to come in. But I mean, not that they don't need it. Obviously, they're cemented as legends anywhere they go. But it also is kind of that one little thing they didn't get. But it was also at Jeff's own doing. Like it wasn't.
Yeah,
because
it's just.
It wasn't because. It was Jeff did it to himself, and unfortunately, and things happen the way they happen. And unfortunately,
it's a disease, man.
It is.
A lot.
And and he appears to be really healthy. He appears to be really happy. I think they're doing a great job in TNA. I see all the time their like signings that they're doing. They stay for hours, and they stay for hours after they're supposed to be done. But their lines are so long that they stay until every single person has got stuff. Like they've been doing. So they seem to be doing really well, and I'm so happy for them. And I hope it stays that way. But that, that's an unfortunate thing. And that's obviously a rare thing. That's not something that you have to deal with all the time. But, there are outside factors occasionally that will.
Fortunately, that's happening. Fortunately, that's happening less and less, like in our generation. Like we don't have to so much. It's so nice. And I'm so glad that the culture has changed where that sort of, we don't have to necessarily worry about that sort of thing as much with our guys.
Right.
So, I mean, that's because it was really rough, like losing so many people within a like 10 or 12 year period. It was just like, oh, everybody's bad behavior caught up in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know that most of these guys will like be old and like they'll be the next AARP faction.
And they'll get to age like Sting, who is all gray now. It doesn't
or Suzuki or like, like somebody like that. I mean, a lot of the Japanese wrestlers get to basically like time out. They get to be like, I'm cool. I'm wrecked now. I'm gonna have a nice graceful run. And I mean it's good. Although I just can't get it out of my head. He even did he did a gotch pile driver in that freaking match. And I'm like, they keep saying the king of everything, and I'm the king of everything, and I can't get Suzuki out of my head.
I want it to be him.
But he like did one of Suzuki's moves it was Claudio that did it. But it was that was a gotch pile driver, I'm pretty sure.
But I think Claudio does them, doesn't he? Does he? Okay. I think. I could be wrong. I'm sure somebody in the chat can let us know for sure. I wanted to say that he does do
I'm
that.
terrible at remembering how much that he does, but I just felt like that one was really pronounced to me for some
reason. I mean, maybe.
And they've been running around talking about being the true kings, and I'm like, you guys better watch out. You're like summoning the murder grandpa to tell you who the real king is.
Listen, if they summons him enough, like Beetlejuice, and he shows up, then that's on them, and I'm not mad at it. However, I still think the king they're referring to is Eddie Kingston.
You're right.
Because of the,
you're right. Because of the Claudio,
I will gladly take Suzuki.
You're totally right.
But I still think that
your thing is more realistic, and it's in touch with the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, when Eddie comes back, the whole whatever place Eddie comes back in is gonna not have a roof after that night.
No, they are not.
They should probably do that in an open air stadium because
they should, because he's gonna, or they're gonna have to buy a new roof for somebody.
Yeah, it's just somebody whatever venue gets that, prepare to put in your insurance for a new roof.
Yes. And Maria says that Joe Hendry was born for WWE 100%. Alistair never really had his heart. No. And, sometimes it happens. You go to a new job and you expect all these good things and you realize this is not what I thought it was going to be. I want to go to the old place. My wife is at the old place.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I understand. However, I would like you to do your job while you're here, like make the most of it.
Yeah, that's the part I don't like.
That's generally what the rest of us have to do. If we're in a place we don't like, we just have to still
we
do
have to
our
be
job.
it's called being professional, which is something, and this is something
you
that
can make that argument for some people can make that argument for Ricky Starks, and I'm not saying that's incorrect.
no, absolutely.
and
I would
all of them.
I totally think
Phoenix
that there's
should
some of
be,
that there.
You know, I would prefer. I mean, we know the stuff like with Andrade that was a little different because he was doing things in an attempt to get fired, and so Tony was like, "This is not how we don't punch our coworkers.
We don't punch our way out of our contracts.
Yeah, we don't do that. So you're gonna sit at home and and that I feel is an understandable situation with why we're not using him. You don't are using a person. However, generally,
the wind outside is like rattling my house. So
I'm surprised it's not rattling here yet. We've had like 20-mile-an-hour. Well, like they said at one point today over Bank of America Stadium, the wind got up to 60 miles an hour.
Sorry, it just like things outside were like rattling, and
I
so
was
like,
worried,
oh my god,
it's been so windy. I was worried it was going to cause glitches because you know how my laptop likes to glitch where I sound like a robot or my screen disappears, and so I've been worried that it's been so windy, and like the sun just came out, but it will probably go right behind the clouds in like 3 seconds. So I
feel bad for you. Like I was saying this to everyone, like we're a winter state. Michigan is a winter state. I mean, I actually don't mind winter. I grew up and decided I don't mind winter. It's fine. It kills off all the pests like it's supposed to, that kind of thing.
Right.
But it does get cold, and I'm from New England, but the lake effects, the wind chill here is like so cold. It will, like, I swear to God, slice you in half if you're not careful. So these gusts, these like 40-mile-per-hour gusts, it's like, is it gonna cut my house in half?
Right.
Like a big saw blade. It's kind of crazy.
I hope not. We don't want that. But yeah.
No, so if that happens, folks, you saw it here. And actually, that would be like, all the people from Michigan would be like, yeah, that tracks. That's how Michigan weather is. That makes sense.
I think it's been so bad. Like I think my dad has lost. I've seen him texting with we have a group chat with my sister, and I've seen a couple of texts come across my phone. And I think my dad has lost power. It's come back, and he's lost it again. So, but he's in a place.
Do you guys have like plows? Do you have like window scrapers in your cars all the time?
Of course we do. Yeah.
Well, now you do.
No, we can't. No, I grew up having window scrapers.
Okay, so you guys do have winter down there then, pretty much.
Oh no, like it gets really cold here, and like our winters have gotten progressively colder.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, I know during climate crisis time, but I'm talking like
no, but I mean, I grew up keeping.
Okay, so you guys have winter then, so you're not far enough south that you don't have winter.
No.
When I was in Virginia, when I was in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, when I was in DC area, they reacted to snow like they had never seen it before. So like, and my aunt, who's from, she's from North Carolina, I think. But she maybe is from a different side of it or something. Maybe, I don't know. But she was like, you're going to drive in this? I'm like, the ground's not even cold enough. It's going to like, yes. But they like cancel everything.
Well, that's understandable.
With, like, a flake. Yeah, they never used to cancel everything here.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain. I mean, it's understandable in certain places.
Nowadays, I get it, and whatever. And I'm not like slagging on. Listen to us. We're AARP talking about the weather here,
right? Nikki said it's rattling the doors, and it was rattling our back door. And then
it's
Maria lives in Chicago, and she knows freezing weather too well. Yeah, I know. I'm sure you do.
Although, just real quick for those people who think that it's called the Windy City because it's windy there, it's not. It's actually because of the politics. Because of the politics it's like here in Michigan, very purple. So that's where that comes from. So there you go. I just cleared that up for y'all.
Oh, thank you.
Tips for life.
Learn something new every day. Maria said that they have to buy bags of salt to melt the snow on the roadways and the driveway. Yeah, we have salt trucks that come through.
We have to be careful here. They have a thing because the wind, if they salt too early, will blow. If it's too windy, will blow the salt off the road before that. So they have a solution that's like a salt mixture that they put down, pre-treat the roads with here to try and help. Because under certain circumstances, they actually can't salt because it just blows off the freeway.
Right.
Because it's so
That's
flat here.
good. That defeats the purpose.
Again, it's like for me, it's very weird because I grew up and I, lived mostly on the coastal area. So this is like the 10 years in the middle as opposed to the other 30 years on the east
Right.
coasts. It's like there's mountains and forests and stuff in the way. Here, there's nothing in the way.
Right.
It's flat. So
Yeah. Right.
like,
right.
look at the hills. I'm like, yeah.
Fernando says, "Thank God I live in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, you don't have to deal with all this crazy. At least not
Enjoy
yet.
your oranges and your sunshine and
Yes, and your warm weather.
It's okay. I don't mind. You know what? I genuinely
I have a
it's
friend who
funny because it's like shaking my house over here.
I have
I'm
a
like,
friend who lives in she's wintering. She lives in New York and but she can work remotely, and so she's currently wintering in Florida.
She's a snowbird.
Well, this is their first time doing this, and they
All
they spend a lot of time in Orlando anyway because
Okay.
they buy like the passes to Disney, and they are people their thing is like our thing is wrestling, theirs is roller coasters. Like they go all over the place.
I totally get it. I have friends that are
So that's their thing, and so that was part of the reason they were wintering down there is because and I think her husband can work remotely too. But yesterday she was like beach day, and I was like, it is February. And she's like at the beach. I don't know how warm it was, but I'm sure in Florida it was warm enough to have a beach day yesterday. So I don't know if she went in the ocean, so I don't know if the ocean was. I don't know if it probably because they're closer to the equator. It probably doesn't get chilly like if we went to the water right now, it would be very cold. But
oh my gosh, if we went in the water right now, we'd First of all, it'd be frozen, but if you fell into it, and people, please be careful, okay? Like. If you don't know, don't walk out on the lake, please. Like, this is very serious, but it's been very cold here. It was weird because it was unseasonably warm here that we didn't need like icebreakers. There was no snow in the Upper Peninsula for the first time, like ever.
Right. I remember you telling me that.
Which is not like it's unheard of. I mean, this weather that's hitting us, I'm downstate. We're getting compared to what's going on upstate and in the Upper Peninsula, where it's like you'll see feet of snow and the winds will be much higher and whatever else. And now, I mean, the icebreakers didn't need to come through the straits at all last year, basically.
Wow.
Whereas like they were, because we had a stretch here where it didn't get out of single digits for like almost 2 weeks. It was like 9 days or something. Mm-hmm. And the wind chill was getting to like 20. Yeah,
we had some
25.
We had some really, really like cold
negative
a few weeks ago, like where we weren't that cold, but we were really like we were staying like in the 20s and under, and we were like having to double layer for
I think the worst day was like 9 degrees with a
luckily we didn't get that bad, thank goodness.
With a 25 below wind chill.
But I think the low on Friday is like
very freaky.
20. I think the low on the Friday is going to be like 21 degrees.
It's wild. It's wild. So
sorry. And that has been your AARP weather
update and alert. Powerbombshells AARP weather alert update. So
and that'll be the perfect transition right on into Grand Slam.
Perfect. It's probably warmer.
I do want to go back to Brad's comment.
Actually, it's summer in Australia, so it probably is warmer.
It is. Brad says fans wanting to rush stories along. The hell you say? That would never happen.
Thank you for using the hell you say. Love that phrase.
My dad uses that phrase.
It's an old John Wayne type phrase.
Yes, my dad. That has been a frequent phrase I have heard my entire childhood.
I was introduced to it when I met my husband. But it's one of my favorites. The hell you say?
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, so Grand Slam, as we talked about earlier, finally happened at 10:52 p.m. Eastern time. Brad said that he could not stay up for it. I had somebody message, or we were talking, I haven't had a chance to respond because it's been a little crazy before, but he told me that he didn't get to watch, but I think he watched like 2 matches and then he had to go to bed, which I feel like happened a lot with people last night because that show happened so late. I hope they got the lead in from the NBA that they wanted. I hope it was worth it. They get the ratings they wanted from it. I thought it was a really good show. I really enjoyed it. we'll get to that match. There was one title that I thought I should have changed hands, and no, it was not Mercedes. And we're going to have a conversation about that and about all of the things around it. But we'll start with the beginning. The opening match was they started off real hot. They started off with Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita versus Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay in an insanely fun match. That's definitely how you set the tone for a show. I'm hoping the people who stuck over for the NBA saw that and was like, what the hell are these four dudes doing?
No, it was great. That was a fun match. It was really exciting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. All four of them are great. I really enjoyed their dynamics. They were really playing up Kenny's intestines, as Don Callis pronounces it.
I love it. That's the British pronunciation.
Don Callis is hated in every country he goes to.
Oh my gosh, that was my favorite thing. I was like, we've now got the F Don Callis chants on like multiple it's happened in Canada, it's happened in the US, and it's happened in Australia, and it's happened in London.
Yeah.
Congratulations. It's gone international.
I was like, international most hated Don Callis.
I was like, right on, Brisbane and Detroit.
I thought it was interesting that he had Mark Davis with him.
Mm-hmm.
Did not have Brian Cage and Lance Archer. I mean, also Mark Davis is from Australia, so I think that was clearly part. This is how we can get you on the show, even though you aren't wrestling. But there are times they cut to him and you could tell he didn't want to be there because as we talked about, Don Callis said, he doesn't like me, but if he wants to work, he has to be part of the Don Callis family. So he was out there. I assumed he was going to get involved last night, and he didn't. However, when listen, we'll go ahead and tell you now, spoiler alerts.
Oh, wait, hang on, wait, I got it.
We'll use the graphic. We'll put it up real quick.
Because this is very important.
It is very important. So if you have not watched the show, we're about to spoil everything. So
that is for Grand Slam, last night Collision, Grand Slam in Brisbane, Australia. That is your spoiler alert. You've been alerted.
Yes, everyone hates Don. Awesome. Yes, this was one heck of a way to open up the show. So as you see, when Kyle and Takeshita lose, they cut to Don Callis, who is beside himself, and Mark Davis is standing next to him with his eyes closed, like, I'm gonna get punished for this somehow. It's just like he stood there like Don Callis is gonna be even more intolerable than he already is. Like his eyes were closed, like, I can't believe this just happened. And surprising, like I thought maybe Callis would I thought maybe Davis would get involved afterwards with like a beat down, or like Callis would send him in there. And it didn't happen. But Callis did get involved, of course, because he does. And he grabbed, I think it was was it Omega's leg that he grabbed to keep him? Now I can't remember. Yeah, to keep him from doing stuff. And then like the ending was really cool. Like they set up for Kenny set up for the one-winged angel, and then Ospreay hit a hidden blade off the top rope and then allowed Kenny to pin him, which I thought was a really cool sequence that they did. That was a really cool ending. They did a lot of stuff in this match, but like I really enjoyed it. And this match was right up my alley, and I think it was a great way to. Yes, I know they had the the ROH tapings prior, but to introduce AEW to the country for the first time in person, like I think that was a really incredible match to do it. And then after the match, well, a little later in the show, but after the match, they cut to Kenny and Will backstage, and Kenny challenges Takeshita for the International Championship at Revolution. Then Ospreay challenges Fletcher to a steel cage match at Revolution.
Also, yes, please.
Yes. And so the interesting thing about Takeshita and Omega is they also announced a new international series, and I took a picture of. I meant to send it to you, and so we could put it up here, and I forgot. until literally just now. But they're doing an international championship series. So on this Wednesday, they're doing a Revolution rematch of Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever that wins that match, the following Wednesday in San Diego will face Takeshita for the title. And then the winner of that match will face Kenny Omega at Revolution.
Right.
Which all this tells me is Takeshita's dropping that title. I thought Takeshita, when they made the match, I was like, oh, Kenny's winning this.
Yeah.
I feel like this is what's happening here, which is probably still happening. But it's interesting that Kenny challenged him and then they turn around and announce the series. I'm like, why didn't you just announce the series and not have Kenny challenge him? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. But I feel like the reason this is happening is because Takesha's going to be spending time in New Japan. I feel like they are taking that title off of him and putting it on most likely Omega, potentially Orange Cassidy or Roderick Strong. But I feel like
they should put it on Kenny.
I feel like they're freeing him up, letting him, because somebody mentioned it a few weeks ago when we talked about it, that Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher are pretty much on the exact same path. And you can't tell the same story with both of them. It makes sense for Takeshita to kind of go tell that story in New Japan. He's contracted with them. He's still contracted with DDT. He can go wrestle over there. Somebody asked earlier about Takeshita being in the G1. I think Takeshita will be in the G1. I think he will represent all three companies, because last year he represented both DDT Pro. Like when he came out, like his little graphic, if I remember correctly, said AEW/DDT Pro. So I feel like he will be there. He will be in the G1, especially because he had such a big showing in the G1.
Wait, is he in not as Super Juniors?
No, he's not in the Cup.
Okay.
He's not.
Okay. Just making sure.
I feel like Takesha will be in the G1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's why they took the title off. That's why they're taking the title off of him. That way the title can be here and be defended while he is in Japan. Because last year when he was in the G1, like he competed night one of the G1 and then he went and wrestled in DDT Pro the very next night. So I feel like that's what he's going to be doing, is he's going to be fulfilling commitments for both of them. And so they're like, well, then you need to leave this title here in AEW. You can have a rematch when you come back. But I feel like he's going to spend a good chunk of the year in New Japan, or at least the summer. I feel like that's what's happening. But I think that Kenny should not have challenged him. I think they should have just announced the series and done it that way, because this doesn't make any sense. This is what are we doing here, Tony?
Because you already know the outcome, basically.
Right. Takesha's losing that. I do still think it's going to be Kenny versus Takesha, because that's the match everybody wants. They have tons of history. I feel like that's where they're going with this.
Well, when you tell me those two matches, I want the pay-per-view. When they said those two matches, and then I'm like, okay, so that still sold me on the pay-per-view already. And then it's like, oh wait, there's a step here, and I'm like, huh? So maybe there's a reason that we're missing. I mean, I'll try and give them the benefit of the doubt.
Let it play out.
We'll see how things play out.
David asked, will Okada ever fight Ospreay? Yes, but they're holding it out. They're not going to do Ospreay Okada before they do Okada Omega. And I think Okada Omega happens at All In, and they don't need a title for that, which we'll get to in a minute when we get to Okada's match. Yes, the tag match did live up to the hype. Fernando says that Kenny is totally winning the championship from Takeshita. Yes, I agree. Brad says, I saw someone bring it up, and it makes sense. The AEW title was for the best wrestler in AEW, while the international title is for the best wrestler in the world, and Kenny holding it makes sense. I mean, Kenny holding any title makes sense, but yes, I get it.
That's what I thought too. I was actually, for me, I'm like, you need to put something on him. Him and Okada kind of need something.
And I don't think that Kenny needs the world title now.
Not necessarily.
With everything that we're doing, the interesting thing will Ospreay hold it before Kenny gets it again? Which would be interesting. But also, you have Hangman, you've got Swerve. Christian still has his contract to cash in unless they somehow do a match for it, and then somebody else gets it, which I could see them doing too. But
you could have Ospreay win it, and then Kenny and him run back, because they still have only done. There's a third match out there potentially.
Right. And that, so I could see that being a 2026. I don't think they'll hold on, probably not all the way till 2027. I could see that being a
2026 type deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's there is trajectory for that to be a possibility, I guess.
Yeah. And I agree with Brad that he would be surprised if Takeshita eventually becomes a full-on New Japan talent. I won't be surprised either. I could see that happening within the next few years.
You know what? They would be kind of dumb not to, because he's pretty over with the crowd.
Like, as much as I love him in AEW and enjoy him, I feel like New Japan would utilize him better than
and where
AEW.
they are right now, he seems like he fits really well into where they are right now. Like
and then
although he kind of fits everywhere.
I feel like part of it is they waited, as they tend to do. They waited too long. They should have pushed Takeshita like right away when he was really hot. They should have pushed him a little bit further. But I also don't think they expected Kyle Fletcher to become the single star that he is. Not that he wasn't good, but he has just taken off in a way that I don't think anybody expected, especially because he is a tag team wrestler. He is Aussie Open. We've talked about before when Mark Davis got hurt, they were a top 5 team in all of wrestling, not just in AEW, like all of tag team wrestling.
Yeah, definitely.
And so and Kyle just took off, and he is really
well, and Will Ospreay has pushed it. I mean, Will's seen that it's there, and he keeps pushing it. So, I mean, they're running with that. I mean, Will has like a unique. I mean, Will know he's one of those ones. It's like Moxley. They know what works. They know what they're doing. They understand like when something happens. I mean, he's giving back to people that gave to him. I think he's like essentially like he was believed in by a bunch of people. He's doing the same thing for these guys, and they're living up to the. I mean, he's wrestling Will again.
Yeah, in a cage match.
On a pay-per-view. Another pay-per-view match.
Yeah, and Brad says Kitty as an international champion gives him a title while also leaving the AEW title to those stories. Elevates the international title more to Will to Takeshita to Kenny is a great lineage. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I think that's
I think that's
and really, like you said, but looking at it that way, Will to Takeshita to Kenny Omega, like that lineage for that title is incredible because unfortunately the Continental Championship, again, which we'll get to, but like you went from Eddie, which I think Eddie was the right person. I still stand by Eddie becoming the first ever what were they calling that championship? When he had all 3 of the titles. I just blanked on what it was called. Was it Continental still then when they were talking about all 3? Because he had 3 titles. And I still think, and then he dropped them all and then was just the Continental Champion. And then he dropped it to Okada, which are 2, like when you look at the title, Eddie Kingston and Okada are 2 triple crown. Thank you. My brain was not, it was nowhere near my brain. Like, where is this going?
Thank goodness you're here every week, Brad. Jeez.
Brad, I am, because I was like, there's so much information in my brain and I can't come up with the word I'm looking for.
Thank you, guys.
So, like, you look at those 2, and I'll get to that in a second, but like that lineage has only had 2 people, but like the international, and you even go back with that being a workhorse title where it was, Pac has held it.
Orange Cassidy.
Ray Phoenix held it, but then he got injured, and so John Moxley held it. And then, but now you're giving it even more with, Will and Takeshita and Kenny, which would be incredible. And I think that's a really good point that Brad made. And yes, I saw that too, that Ospreay is a producer for Pro Wrestling Eve in the UK, which is an all women's promotion. And apparently been doing it for a little while and was doing it quietly, which seems pretty cool. So good for him. And I hear that Pro Wrestling Eve is putting on really great shows. I believe Pro Wrestling Eve is where they just did Jamie Hayter versus Alex Windsor a couple of weeks ago. And I saw Lyric talking about it, and she was talking about how it was a really incredible match. And it was weird because I think she said Jamie played the babyface in that match. I want to say. I heard it was really, really good. So yes, and Eddie winning was a great story. I was so happy for him. But so now the second match last night was that was Mercedes versus Harley Cameron. which is really interesting, the trajectory around the conversation of this match, because as late as 2 weeks ago, people thought Harley shouldn't even get a title shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now they were because of one great promo, they were advocating for her to win. And I was like, 2 weeks ago, you didn't even think she deserved a title shot. Now you want her to win after one AEW win? You want to put a title on somebody? That's insane. And I say this as somebody who has been on the Harley train for a while. I really like her. I think she's great. But to put a title on somebody with one win is insanity for any company. And that's something TNA would have done.
Certainly not over someone you paid as much money as you paid Mercedes.
Right.
I think it's a good thing. It turns, for me, I felt as though it makes Mercedes, she's 100% heel now. It's confirmed. That's one of the best roles. She's always played heel really well.
Better at the heel, yeah.
That's her thing. Anyway, she's a better heel than she is a babyface anyway. So now she goes on and does this. It's like,
yeah,
that's a step in Harley's journey, and she did an amazing job. But
this got Harley over even more than she already was. This match did exactly what Mercedes set out to do. Because again, not that I don't think Tony had anything to do with this, but you and I have been saying this. If this match was a title match, it's because Mercedes wanted it to be. Because Mercedes and Harley have been training together some. Outside of the ring, I think that Harley, so I think Mercedes has gone to bat for Harley and his not that Harley has not earned it, because clearly she's putting in the work and is doing everything. But that 2 weeks ago, people were like, she should not be getting a title match. Why is this a title match? Why is this a title match too? She should beat Mercedes Moné. What?
This is not WWE, guys.
This isn't TNA even. This is something TNA would have done.
The Impact Zone.
Yeah, like 5 years, especially 5 years ago, 7 years ago, TNA, this is what they would have done. They would have taken it off. And I think it's Laron who said it a couple days ago, that Harley has to prove that she's not just vibes, that she can hang with your TBS champion, which she did prove that.
Correct.
I think.
I agree.
But I was like, and I know some of these there's probably some overlap here, but I'm like, these are people who are pissed off that Jay Uso won the Royal Rumble because he's super over. He moves merch. He's their biggest merch seller. And you're mad that he won, but then you turn around and want Harley you think that Jay Uso didn't deserve to win the Royal Rumble, but you think Harley deserves to win the title off of one match and one really good promo that she cut? That's insane. What are you talking about? But then you have people that were feeding into it, like John Alba was actively saying Mercedes needs to drop this title to Harley. It won't hurt Mercedes. Harley needs this title. And I'm like, what are we? And then he was the only one I saw, but I saw some other people saying, some other big name journalists, like wrestling media people, were also advocating for Harley and how it almost seemed coordinated. Yeah, I personally didn't see that, other than John Alba was the only one I saw advocating for it. But some people some bigger people with bigger followings than us were advocating for Harley to win. And it was very interesting that they were turning on Mercedes in a sense. And that was which I can't really speak to that because I didn't see it myself. I just saw.
I did see it one or two. I saw John Alba doing it, and I saw other people, and I'm not going to name names because I don't feel like that's necessary. But
sure,
totally it was out there. Everyone knows that saw it, knows what they know, and I struggle with this because I think that there's some weird impatience with Mercedes that doesn't make sense to me, because it's like she's had some really good matches and put some people over now. She's past the point where she did start out where it was like, I'm not sure. And then she had the match with Chris Statlander, and then she had the second match with Chris Statlander, which were both great. And then, this was a really good match. And like you said, I think that the idea of beating Harley in front of her home crowd and turning her, that's Harley's a face. Mercedes is a freaking heel now. She is
Right.
bona fide heel, everybody. That's her.
And the match did its job. The job was to get Harley over.
Now she has to chase the title. Now she has to keep proving that she can be a better wrestler.
Right. And they put Harley, they may have posted it since then, but as of last night, Harley was the only, besides Okada, Harley was the only interview they put up last night, her post-match. And she was talking about how happy she was. She was like, of course, I would have liked to have won, but I got to wrestle in front of my loved ones and prove to them that this wrestling thing is not so crazy, that it was worth it. This has lit a fire under me. I'm gonna be champion one day. I'm gonna work harder. Mercedes she pushed me and made me better, which is the entire point of this match. The point was never to make Harley champion. It was to build Harley up and to make her a legitimate wrestler.
To keep her momentum going.
Right, which is what they did. Losing to Mercedes Moné does not hurt Harley. And I said
they need to sell that puppet, man. I would buy that in a heart. I'm seriously, I am on board. I don't know why they're not selling them.
Great. And they picked, I think it's only been around for 2 weeks, so that's probably part of it.
They need to get on it, because
but Harley, they picked their moments last night with using the puppet. I was really excited to see Harley do a destroyer. It's not often that women do destroyers as it is. So that was really cool. My biggest criticism is Mercedes has got to find a new finisher, or she's got to learn how to, because that finisher gets botched 99% of the time. Unfortunately, it's just the moneymaker does not.
The moneymaker
does not work. It often gets botched. I think Mercedes needs to move away from that and find something else to use, and then maybe work on that more, and then try to bring it back. Perhaps it doesn't work, and for her as a champion, I think she should get. That's my only criticism, is stop using the moneymaker and find a different finisher. But otherwise, I thought the match was really good. They got 13 minutes, which I think Brad even pointed it out, was that that's the longest match that we think Harley has had. And I think in ROH, her matches are typically 6 or 7 minutes. She doesn't have that many matches she has a couple of wins in ROH. But I think 13, I thought the 13 minutes was a decent time for them. I think it worked with what Harley's experience level is. Again, this woman has had less than 100 matches, and she's already gotten a title shot in her home country. That's insane. That also means that they believe in Harley, and that Harley is earning these spots to get this. But she is not in a position where she needs to have a title.
It's not good for her to push her too fast. Give her the chance to become the wrestler she can be.
Right.
Don't get impatient. Mm-hmm. It's in our best interest and her best interest to let her take this journey. She's effectively young at this. Let her take the trip. It'll be way sweeter in a year or whatever, when she's just destroying everything and she's doing her own thing, and she's created something around herself. And she doesn't look like she's going away. She's definitely she's living the life, man. She's got everything she needs. So
and she has Mercedes Moné in her corner in real life. It sounds.
If she keeps putting in her reps, then she'll earn it, and it'll be better than And and Fernando is hot-shotting it, essentially.
Yeah, they would have absolutely hot-shotted it. And Fernando, has made the point. I've seen this is kind of what Brad was talking about too. That Mercedes did for Harley, what Ric Flair did for Sting in the first Clash of Champions back in the day. And Brad says that Meltzer brought up Mercedes dropping it to make her like Flair did for Sting, but there's no. She did that without dropping the title. There was no reason, because I said it on Twitter.
But is Harley what level of wrestler was Sting at the time that Ric Flair did that versus the level that Harley
had over 60 matches at that point by that time.
Was was Sting only at like 100 or less than 100 matches too, or
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I'm sure maybe somebody in the chat knows. I think he was more
because
than
that would be my only argument to that is like how far along in his journey was Sting when Ric Flair did that compared to where Harley is right now in her journey.
Right.
And I'm just gonna come right out and say that I don't think that Harley, right? She's really great and she's taking to it, but she's not Sting.
No, 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 not at all.
I mean, that's
and
cool
again,
and all
Mercedes,
that she can rap and do puppets and stuff, and that's great.
Right.
But she's not Sting.
Right. And Mercedes did her job. She got
I agree.
Harley over last night. That was the entire point of the match, was to get Harley over to the next level of where she can, of where they see her going.
Because I mean, you give her the belt too soon, she flubs it, then she goes away and she's just gone forever.
Right. And like I said on Twitter, and then I brought it over to Blue Sky, if Mercedes is losing that title to anybody, it is Athena at All In. That is the story they have been hinting at since they announced All In Texas. They've been hinting at it.
Someone in the chat mentioned that she's on her way to 800 days.
I believe that Brad said that she is at 800 days as champion.
Yeah.
And she also defended her title yesterday at the ROH tapings against Alex Windsor. And I thought that match was airing this Thursday, but it turns out they're airing tomorrow on YouTube.
Oh.
So we're going to get Athena on YouTube and not behind a paywall for that match.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's
the
good.
ROH matches are really good. That I saw so it was Athena versus Alex Windsor for the title. The Sons of Texas, which is Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes, put their tag titles on the line against MXM, because that's the story they've been telling for a little bit. And then the Outrunners, I think it was the Outrunners and Brian Keith. Was the Outrunners and Brian Keith? What was that match? I can't. It was a sixth person. Oh yeah, because it's against it's the Outrunners and somebody else again. Oh no, and Bandito against the Learning Tree, and people were like, I like everybody in this match but Jericho, and we get to see them, but at what cost? Like people, the Australian fans are like, we get to see these people, but at what cost? Or I like 5 people in this match, but I hate Jericho. It's really funny. And so like they're getting some really good matches on this episode tomorrow. But yeah, so Athena that's the story they've been telling, is that that they've been hinting at, rather. They've hinted at it on Twitter. They've hinted at it in person when they were there. They both keep making little references to each other to plant the seeds. Because Lauren asked me when I thought they would start preparing Athena versus Mercedes. Like, when would Athena challenge her? My guess is after Double or Nothing. Because, I mean, maybe Dynasty's in April, perhaps then. We don't know for sure when Supercard of Honor is. It's typically Mania weekend. There have been rumors that is not happening this year. I don't know how accurate that is and when they are planning on doing it, so that could change the timeline. But somebody was saying that between Double or Nothing and All In, it's only a little over a month, and that isn't enough time. But I think that it is, because they've been hinting at this story since it was announced. I think how I would do it is I would have Athena drop the title to Billy at Supercard of Honor, come to AEW, pick up some wins, and then challenge Mercedes, and we build our story from there. Some people feel like Athena should have the title when she challenges her and do a title for title. I don't like that, because then we're getting the Ember Moon Asuka storyline from NXT, where we're not putting over a woman in ROH. We're just taking the title, and either Athena's going to have both titles or Mercedes will have both titles. And it would go with the belt collector gimmick if she won the ROH championship, which I guess I could see them doing that. But I don't want the women's division in ROH to not get put over because Athena loses the title to Mercedes. But then you could make the argument that she wins both titles, which I would love Athena 2 belts, and I think Athena deserves to have 2 titles. She deserves to be a belt collector. But my biggest fear with that, or biggest issue with that is Athena going to AEW without putting anyone over on the way out. I don't like the idea of that. I don't, title for title would be fun. I guess it would make sense, but I would prefer for Athena to drop the women's title to Billie, especially because of what they did with Billie at Final Battle. Turns out that Athena she was winning that title so she could take it with her to Japan to defend it in Stardom. That totally makes sense, but then it screws Billie yet again. And so I think that Athena has to drop that title before she leaves. That's how I feel about it. If you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I struggle with ROH because it's like you've got Chris Jericho running around with the men's title, and the ROH titles spend a lot of time in AEW and not in ROH, and ROH doesn't have a place right now, and I hope that it's gonna find a place, and that there's but it just feels like it's spinning its wheels, and because of that, there's some really good talent that's sort of caught in a weird space of like a limbo, an AEW ROH limbo, where it's and
I mean, if they wanted to give Harley a title, that you could put the ROH title on Harley, but then that belt would never be seen in ROH.
But then
either.
Harley wouldn't be on.
And
Harley wouldn't be on AEW TV, which is already the problem with Athena, and I know that, again, they're trying to keep her behind a paywall, and they're trying to sell a thing by having Jericho do that. I don't, whether that's working or not, we don't know until we know, but it's Tony, why did you buy ROH for any, I mean, like, if you're not going to commit.
No, but I hate that argument, because if he did not buy it, people wouldn't.
Well, no, I want him to buy. I want him to own it, and I don't mean it like In the grand scheme, I am grateful that Tony Khan owns the ROH library and all of the ROH assets, because then they will be shared with the general public, because he is a wrestling fan.
Right.
I question his running the program.
Oh, I question it all the time.
Because I don't understand what the point is. He's got a lot of irons in the fire as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems as much as like, I guess unless maybe they're making money off. Maybe they are making some money off of it. But you just got paid $585 million by WB. Right. So I want it to be there. I wish it had a purpose. I don't know. It feels like it's in this weird space that it's too bad. Like, it's not living up to its potential.
Right.
Like, it has so much potential. It's not like, but
with that I 100% agree.
I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to say is I just feel like there's so much potential there that's just being squandered, and that is like, I mean, that is something that Tony suffers from. Tony has a hard time with realizing potential, whether it's for talent or, in this case, a label.
Sure.
I was like, wow, they have this whole like color scheme for the Australia thing that even some of the wrestlers were like trying to play into, and like Mercedes' outfit was really fun, and I was like, why aren't you like marketing more? Like, I use these for slides. Why are you not making these? But I have to like rake the internet for this. Like, you should be giving these to us like you used to give them to, where you used to get them on the app and you just send them to me. It's like,
then the app that they use now,
everything in this fun green, black, and yellow. But you didn't.
Yeah, they don't send us those anymore. We get now the app is all pictures like from each show. Like, after each show they put up 20 pictures from that show,
barely from each show, and they don't even put up any of the promo pictures for the freaking
it's helpful for me when I'm writing for when I'm doing live coverage, because I can grab recent pictures of people for the most part,
like socials easily, and stuff.
But they used to send us in the old app that they used to use. They used to send us graphics, and they would have graphics for YouTube, for Twitter, and for Instagram. Like, they were sized. They would send the same graphic 3 times in the different sizes that we needed.
Yep, the ones that go on each of the individual mediums.
And it was really
great.
It was really helpful. And then we switched apps, and we quit getting promotional material, and now we get about 20 to 30 images per show that come up usually like a day or so after it airs. Every once in a while, they'll mix in ROH pictures. That's rare, which is hard when I'm trying to cover ROH. And if you see, sometimes ROH is like the same few pictures over and over. It's because that's all I have access to. And daily BDT is different, where we have to get permission from our editors before we use the picture, like and so I have to I have to go through the app, download pictures of wrestlers, put it in a folder, and then that folder has to be sent to the person above my editor to approve it.
To make sure that you're not copyright infringing.
So Daily BDT runs the fan side. It does things a little bit differently, but still, like, I hate not having the promotional materials. The app is right there. Use it for both. Use it to put in these live shots, but also use it to use your promotionals, especially for. I know it's a little bit harder when you're doing your weekly stuff. That's a little bit, and we don't, but people like the Dynamite show. Like, if they need graphics for each match if they're going to talk about it. But like for pay-per-views, when we do our previews, like we need, and no, Grand Slam was not a pay-per-view, but it was a really big show that we should have had graphics for, that I wouldn't have to go get off of social media.
Yeah, I don't have to like scour the internet to pull them off of socials so that I can here's one that fits this and drag and drop it and do all the silly things and I mean, listen, that's fine. I'll do it that way, but it's or you could just give it to me and I'm doing free promoting for your show.
Right. Right. And we've talked
about there's all of us in this community that do this silly thing that we do, and we all some people take it more seriously than others, but at the end of the day, it's I'm not passing up free advertising, free people.
I don't know
we
why
put those graphics up. They say TNT all over them. They say Max all over them. I'm just, you're welcome. I'm not sponsored by any of these people. But that's fine.
It's almost like TV actually, where they are always pulling down New Japan clips.
Dude,
what people try to do. Like, you would have thought that you would have learned. I don't know. It's frustrating. And I know it's a very first world problem. But it would be nice to have PR graphics to use as well as the photos that you send out. Like, you're already doing one, you can do both. Because you did do both. You used to send them out. Put them back. You just upload them to an app.
I mean, I guess maybe they're keeping them for themselves, but I would spread the wealth. I'd spread the love.
You have an app.
Get free people. And I do agree with you. Yes, I absolutely agree with you, Brad, that I want Tony to own the ROH. I want him to have the library. I don't want Vince to bury it like he did all the other things.
And it gives people jobs.
I completely agree with that portion of it. My problem with the ROH product right now that frustrates me is, it's something that always frustrates me, is when something isn't living up to its potential. It's and I'm glad people have a place to work. But
you're going to see these 5 matches tomorrow, and this is what ROH should be doing on a weekly basis with this. I haven't even seen.
Yeah, and they should be plugging the freaking subscription. Why are you not?
I know. Well, tomorrow it's on YouTube, so I guess that's why they're not promoting.
But they should be using the free opportunity. They should be using that free opportunity to push the network. I'm sure on YouTube
they'll tell you, during when it airs on YouTube. I'm sure they'll promote Honor Club there.
I hope so,
because they've got 5 matches that are airing, so I'm sure they will. Paul says that he loves Harley, but it would have lacked believability that she'd get closer to winning against Mercedes than Stat did, much less winning. Yeah, that was another thing.
That's a good point.
Stat was more believable both times.
Yeah, she would. She would be jumping people like Stat. That seems.
Yeah. Maria believes that Mercedes is pound for pound the best woman wrestler in the world right now. And then also after the match, I forgot to mention, we had, because Momo Watanabe was sitting ringside, and Mercedes went and put her belt in her face. I assume that is setting up for Windy City Riot, is my guess, is probably where that's happening. It looks to be for the TBS championship, because I think that was the title she held on her face. I could be wrong, because I don't think that was the strong title. I think it was the TBS championship that she held in her face. So they could bring in, maybe they'll bring in Momo before. Maybe they'll do Momo and and Mercedes at Revolution for the TBS title, and then they'll have a rematch for the strong title or something. Maybe they do it that way. Maybe she puts both the strong, maybe she does like she did at Wrestle Dynasty. Maybe she puts all of her titles on the line at Revolution against Momo, or maybe this is just setting it for Windy. My guess was Windy City Riot, but they could do Revolution and then Windy City Riot, because Windy City Riot's what, May, or is that April?
I cannot remember. I just know that March 9th is Revolution. So, and they put it on the screen enough times that I was like, keep this in your brain. Keep it in your brain.
Venkin wants 5-belt Monet. Maria loves my booking. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
She tends to be right a lot.
Athena has to lose the ROH championship before and go to AEW. Save title for Timeless Tony versus Mercedes. Yeah, you could do that. That would be fun. Brad says ROH has been better the past month plus. It's just been over an hour and it feels more like Rampage. I would agree with that. It's been like an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and 27 here and there. It is picking up a bit more, probably because we're going to be a tough. Supercard is coming up sooner rather than later, and that's when we start trying to figure things out. And Maria says she's totally next for Mercedes. I think she means that. I believe that's in reference to it. Yeah. So that's where we are with that. And we spent a lot of time on that, but that was a big topic around the wrestling world. So we'll go into the next match, which was the Brisbane Brawl with Cope and Switchblade versus John Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli. And actually the rest of Death Riders except Pac. Pac was like, I'm not going to Australia. I don't know. I don't know what Pac was doing, but it was just funny because Pac was not there.
He was sitting in the back, not wearing a shirt.
He was probably sitting in his sauna talking about the slimy rats that work for AEW, and probably plotting his way to burn it to the ground, even though John Moxley and Claudio said they don't want to burn it to the ground, but Pac does. So I still think that's
Pac's a bastard, so.
Yes. Very true. So we see, so Cope comes out first. I saw the video going around on social media yesterday. I did watch it, but I did not read the captions or the replies because I didn't want to mistakenly or accidentally get spoiled. But we had the really cool moment where Cope has said, this could be his final time in Australia. And so the fans serenaded him with his theme song, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was.
Cope annoys me sometimes and gets up, and I'm still not thrilled about him having a title shot. However, I thought that was a really cool moment. I'm glad that he got that. He deserves it. He's somebody who has been through a whole hell of a lot the last few years, and he's done a lot for wrestling. He's been a fan favorite for decades, and so I thought that was really, really cool that he got that. But then they almost made him cry.
Yeah, I saw him. I was like, I think he teared up.
And so I said, "Oh no, he's Brisbane bawling." You're welcome, or I am sorry.
They dropped a letter.
You're welcome, or I'm sorry for that terrible.
I love it. Hey, I'm the audience. I'm the audience for that, so you're good.
No, that's for you. That's
just
for you.
Me. Sam gets me.
From me to you. But, so that was really cool.
No, I got goosebumps, and I thought that was really special. And I was like, you know what? This makes sense, because how often has he been there? And under the circumstances, like, this is not like a WWE thing. It's a totally different feel. So
right.
It was really, because we were all, that's what I said, see, this is why like wrestling is so awesome. Like it's like this unifier of all of us, like sitting here having this moment. It's like, no matter how you felt about him, like that's amazing. And if you have any appreciation, whether you're a fan of his or not, if you have any appreciation of legacy and history of wrestling, you have to be down with that.
Yeah. And that song has been stuck in my head ever since I watched that video yesterday.
Really nice.
It's a really good song. And then so Switchblade comes out. he doesn't get sung to, but he also doesn't have lyrics on his song, so
That's okay.
he came out in all white, which I enjoyed. And then, of course, so Marina led Jon Moxley and Claudio through the audience. They get jumped pretty much as soon as the match starts, because of course this is the first ever Brisbane Raw, which is essentially a street fight. but I loved it. It was fun. It was difficult to cover, but not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. I mean, there were times when we had to pause and rewind things, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I expected, because they kept it. And so then we have Cope making everybody nervous because he goes up top, like above the stairs, and we're like, my guy, you just came back from an injury because you jumped off of a.
Fortunately, that ring looked like it was like a miniature ring, a miniature version of an AEW ring, so he didn't have to that far to fall.
Right.
That ring mat was at Moxley's 6'4". We looked it up. That ring was at his waist. That was not their normal ring.
Yeah, I saw somebody talking about how the rings in Australia are smaller or something like that. I don't know.
They must not have used the
I don't know how accurate. Well, and I'm sure that probably for travel purposes, maybe they didn't, but
it was
that's
small.
Lot,
but anyway,
so
but
yeah,
I'm with you.
I don't know how.
Like, still, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he's out in the crowd jumping off, and I was like, oh my! And even Nigel was like,
"Don't break your hip.
What are you doing? Like, please don't. Right, don't break your hip. You just came back from a very serious injury because you jumped off of the cage. Yes, this is shorter, but please be careful." But it was cool, and like I enjoyed the match. It was fun. I knew Yuta was. I thought it was going to be Yuta and Pac getting involved. Pac apparently didn't make the trip, or like you said, was stewing backstage shirtless. He did not have his medium shirt. I also want to point out that February 11th was apparently White T-shirt Day, and I said that they should alert Death Riders.
They need to let them.
T-shirt Day.
Yeah, right. I missed out. Bummer.
But I thought the match was fun. I was a little surprised that it was. I guess I'm not. At first, I was a little surprised that Cope was the one to. Well, he didn't tap. He went to sleep because he put him in the
bulldog choke.
The bulldog choke. He fought back a little bit, got up, and Mox was like, "Oh hell no, you don't." I mean, it makes sense going into Revolution that Cope would be the one to eat the not eat the pin because he didn't tap out. I mean, he went to sleep. So, which also I think it helps because he didn't tap out and he didn't pin him. He had to put him to sleep to end the match.
And there was a lot of interference because
because
it was supposed to be these people, but he brought the whole crew.
Right. Right. Exactly. And then
literally was it Jay White that got the crap beat out of him with a kendo stick?
And the belt. Yuta had a belt.
Yeah,
but then he stood up and just took it because he's a masochist, apparently.
Well, Jay White is like, when he said, I think it was so funny because when he said, "I'm going to make you bleed about this situation with Jon Moxley," I was like, well, Jon Moxley's in now. All you had to say was blood.
And he was bleeding last night because
they were all like, barbed wire chairs.
Yeah, they had the barbed wire chair, so he bled. Cope took a power bomb through a table. He luckily got his hands up in time before he went through it. I appreciated him protecting his head. And then he didn't take him out. I mean, he was down for a bit, but it didn't take him out of the match completely. And then I thought was interesting was Yuta holding Switchblade, so he could not help. But then when they beat him after the match, they made him watch. He was holding his head up and holding him in place so that he had to watch what they were doing, which was really interesting and added some layers to it. We did have, Maria is correct. Australia was very pissed about Cope tapping out, and so they were chanting bullshit very loudly throughout that match.
That whole place was on the same page. That's true.
Yeah, they were very angry. Which, and I get it as an Australian fan, that's the first time you're seeing you've just serenaded that man. Of course you want him to win. But I think in the bigger story of what the Death Riders are telling and leading.
I think that's the reaction they were looking for.
Yeah. And you see Moxley got in the camera and he said, "That's who I'm supposed to be afraid of." He said it twice.
He is such... Man, he wants it hard, man. He wants someone to just take He wants someone to kick his ass.
Unless his name is Toriano, then no.
Well, yeah, of course. That would be so funny. Someone just shows up with Yano and is like, here's your kryptonite. Ha ha.
And Yano at the show on Tuesday was wearing regular, like he was dressed up kind of like for Yano. And I was like,
he was like doing commentary and he was like, but he was still selling his DVDs.
And so it made me laugh. I was like, is Yano going to go challenge whoever wins this match? And that's why he's dressed nice.
That'd be awesome.
I was like, he does commentary in his t-shirts all the time. And I was like, oh, he's dressed nice. Brad says, we rarely have a strong heel anymore. Mox being a strong heel is awesome. I would agree with that. The Smile Marina sign. I hope that makes her proud more.
The best sign of the night was the Ripper Tits Off sign that someone was holding during the Tony Storm match. So
there was who was the sign that somebody had the talented Mr. Ripley sign that they held up during Buddy Matthews. I was like, funny, but also I hate that because I get it. Like I'm glad.
I see. Okay, no, that's dumb.
But I hate the Mr. because I already hate it when they do it to women wrestlers.
I don't like that.
I don't
that
like
discourse is stupid to begin with.
It's on my nerves. The sign was clever, but also cringe.
Just a Ripper Tits. The best sign of the night, Ripper Tits Off. Tony said it. It was something she said. It's not as if it's
right.
Yeah.
Don't
tell women. I actually, just as a little quick thing, Brad, I do occasionally tell men to smile. So I do get my get back. So I tell them they'd look nicer if they smile more. So
and Vincent is at the opposite end of Brad's opinion and says everybody books their heels as cowards and it's bad. I don't think Mox was booked as a coward last night. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, and then you feel free to expand on your comments if you would like, in case I'm misunderstanding what you're saying here. But I get it. I don't really like. There is a place for chicken shit cowards heels, and but then there's also, especially with the story that Mox is trying to tell, you don't want him to be a coward. But maybe he's agreeing with Brad, and I misunderstood that, which is also possible. So Venkin, if I misunderstood what you said and misrepresented that, I apologize for misunderstanding that. And while we're waiting for your response, we will get to the next match, which we were just referring to, which was Buddy Matthews versus Kazuchika Okada for the Continental Championship. Buddy got, obviously being his home country, got over tons of cheers and barking, and he had a really cool vest on that looked like the one similar to Rhea Ripley wore, a similar one in Australia where it was like a ripped vest with, it may have been the same vest for all I know, but it had the Australian flag on it, and it looked really cool. And then Okada got these really cool lasers that were pointed downward at the stage, and it looked really cool. And somebody was saying
that new jacket was a lot of fun.
Yeah, somebody was like, please added Tony and was like, keep the lasers for Okada, stay. Which I agree. I loved it. I thought it looked really cool. Maria said that this was an excellent performance by Buddy Matthews. Yeah, Buddy
agree.
Always been a good wrestler.
People sleep on Buddy a lot.
Yeah, he's definitely
been good for a long time. All the way back to Strong. Sam and I have been big Buddy Matthews fans for a long time. Well, and
back on 205 Live.
205 Live, yep.
Buddy was having some great matches with Cedric and Mustafa. Mustafa and Buddy had a really great feud in 205 that still people talk about. Yep. Brad said the horror fan in him did not want Okada to walk through the lasers.
I agree with you 100%, but
that's very fair.
The horror and suspense thriller, my Ocean's 11 went no.
Right. But I thought this was a really great match. It's great to see Buddy finally getting his due. Again, we talked about it last week. Is this because Malachi was holding House of Black back because of the way he was doing things and his pinitis that he had, where he could not have his shoulders on the mat? Did that affect their booking, which you could argue that they do
Maybe.
look like they're booked a bit better as the Hounds of Hell, and then Brody's getting.
Yeah.
Brody is also underrated
Agree.
in his singles matches, and we got to see that with the Continental Classic more. So I mean, you can make that argument so far. I mean, it's only been a few weeks since they've been away from Malachi, so that remains. Maybe we revisit this conversation in 3 months or 6 months and see about that. But and that's interesting because I will get to Brad. I think Buddy should have won here. I
thought he might.
I thought he was. I thought he might. I thought this would be. And I guess you could argue back-to-back title changes, but I mean, they could have separated the matches out and it would have been fine. But I feel like the Continental title is stale. They need to get it off of Okada. And I say that as somebody who is a very big Okada fan. I feel like we talked about it earlier. There's been 2 champions, Eddie Kingston and Kazuchika Okada, 2 incredible talents. I think that Buddy Matthews, maybe is he on Okada's level? No, but most people are not on Okada's level. However, I think that Buddy Matthews is like we said, he's really underrated. He's a good wrestler. I think that they should have done the title change here.
Well, he's a workhorse, and it would have been good to give him a chance to show it and wrestle some people that need the thing so that we can free Okada up to do some more important stuff. Because he's Okada.
Right.
I'm not saying I don't like what I guess
what they're doing. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and finish your thought.
No, it's fine. You go.
Okay. So my guess, besides Brad and Fernanda, who are correct, I think they could be right here. And I'll post their comments in a second. I said it before. I don't think Okada Omega needs a title. However, they could be doing title for title. If Kenny wins the international championship and Okada still has the Continental Championship, they could potentially be doing. I do not think that they are going to combine these titles. The Continental Championship the International Championship was something Warner Brothers wanted. That's the whole reason that title was created. It's because Warner Brothers wanted another one. I mean, maybe they do. I guess they could unify them because the Continental the Continental title served its purpose. However, then the Continental Classic, I guess, would be for the unified title. Then if that's where they're going with it.
I guess if they do it that way.
My guess is it's a title for title match.
Plus, they're making it so that you get a shot at the actual title when you win the Continental Classic now, which it should be that way. That I feel like, but because it makes it more meaningful. I like the Continental Classic. I think making it that.
Like, I think they need to keep
I think doing that makes it awesome. So
yeah, so I think perhaps they do unify them. I guess it's possible that they do that. But it feels like maybe that's where they're headed with this, is a title for title match. You could still just do an international title match and then have Okada drop the Continental title between now and All In, and then just have it for the international championship if you want a title on the line here. But then Fernando and Brad both say that he thinks Buddy and Brody should eventually win the tag team championships from the Hurt Syndicate. Brad said he doesn't mind Buddy losing here mainly because he's expecting a tag titles run for Hounds of Hell, which I was not thinking about last night, and I think you're both correct. I had forgotten about that.
I think the Hounds of Hell thing was a great idea. That's been like a revelation in the whole thing. I mean, they showed up. I was like, "Ooh, this is good." It was like as soon as that divorce happened, it was like, okay, what are we going to do here? I do like this because I mean, again, we want the tag team division to be strong, but I think that it's a good I want that match. I'm here for that match.
Yeah,
I'm here for that feud,
and
I'm
I'm
here for that match.
Because I was just thinking of the time I was not, for whatever reason, was blocking out the tag title like that. They were even, especially because they've already hinted at it, and I don't know why. I just went back to that.
Really great idea because that's a fun feud. I could see that.
They were a good trio.
Yeah,
they were. So I guess in that sense,
get Julie out there.
I guess in that sense, it does make sense that Okada retained. Especially because if they're not going the tag title route, then he definitely should.
But I like the fact that there was, because to me, you're doing it right if there's a doubt in my mind.
Right.
And I think the reason that I do put New Japan above a lot of things is that there is that sort of feeling where on any given situation, a guy could swerve you and actually take a title or a win that you didn't expect. And that's the sport aspect to it that I enjoy more than the entertainment aspect to it. So, I mean, that's entertaining to me. So,
yeah. And Benkin says, he gets why Black wants to be back in WWE. So it's like,
it's totally fine.
And like we talked about earlier, like some places just aren't fit for people, and you go into a new job thinking, hey, this is where I'm going to be. This is going to be great. And then you get there and you realize, you know what? I was wrong.
It's not for me.
This isn't for me. I want to go back to where I was before. In this situation, his wife is there. So I get it. I and if he was unhappy there, then I hope like I said earlier, I hope he's happy in WWE, and I hope that this is the right. So it looks like it could end up being the right move for everybody involved, which is great. So, but I thought this was a really great match. I thought that Buddy looked excellent. Okada is Okada, even though Josh from Wrestle Stiff was at the show, and one of the tweets I did see yesterday was that he has lived long enough for Okada to become Sonata. Yeah. And I don't know exactly what I have an idea of what he means, but I'm assuming he will expand on that. But he said some of the moves that Okada was doing are some of the moves that Sonata does. And I don't feel like he was phoning it in, which in some cases Sonata kind of, I think Okada went out there. Like
Sonata phoned it in for Vindor too.
Like Okada did like the heel, the lazy heel thing where he goes and he gets his title and he's gonna leave, and he's like, I was wrong, you're not a bitch, you're a wanker. That made him mad, and then he got involved again and tried to use the belt and then he cheated to win. I mean, he grabbed Stephon Smith's shirt and he hit Buddy in the yam bags, and ref didn't see it. So I mean, so it wasn't like complete house of torture. But that's kind of how Okada's been doing things, and this is different for Okada as far as he hasn't done that in a really long time. As far as we've talked about this before, for so long he carried New Japan on his back, and he gets to, this is a person who like, there's like the meme that was born to dilly dally but forced to lock in. That's Okada. Like, this man just wants to be funny. He can't help it that he happens to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. He just wants to. And I think they were kind of giving him some leeway to just be Okada and do what he wanted to do and not have to worry about carrying a company on his back for 5 consecutive years.
That's fair.
But as far as match, and I get people's arguments about wanting to see the other Okada. I get it. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, because when Okada is in matches, I feel like he's Okada. Maybe he's not 7-star match Okada, but he doesn't need to be that every week. Like Ospreay is out here doing 5-star matches every time he gets in the ring. Okada doesn't have to do 5-star matches. I feel like when the time calls for it, he locks in and is Okada, but I can see where maybe some of the heel things he was doing last night is, but that's also like Bullet Club type of stuff, like what they, that type of thing. And so maybe we see if he loses this, I think that he does need this feud with Kenny, because I think he needs that, not that
get elevated and like,
and
people need to remember who he is.
I don't want to say that Okada hasn't had, like, people who have wrestled Okada have not been good enough, but I feel like excellent, like, iron sharpens iron, and that's the perfect thing for Omega Okada. They bring out the best in each other. Okada Ospreay bring out a lot of.
And when people are wrestling on that level, it makes everybody have to work harder too.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
You have to keep up.
Yes. Nikki said that was rude that Josh compared Okada to Sonata. And Brad says, we'll get big match Okada when needed. Otherwise, we get undercard multi-man match Okada, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. So people, and I get it, but for those of you who were not watching the Road 2 shows, this is what Okada was doing. He was being silly, and I don't want to say half-assing it because I don't think that's what he's doing, but he's not putting in 5-star matches every week because he doesn't have to. There's no need for him to do so. But then maybe you do want your champion doing those things. But I feel like every time Okada has defended the title, we have seen that Okada. Like, we've seen an Okada who is a champion, who wants to defend his title. That was his 10th, and I didn't realize it until I saw the headline from Wrestling Inc. That was his 10th title defense.
Wow.
With this championship. And that's another thing. They're kind of defending it in the way that he would if he was in Japan. Because they don't typically space out their title defenses in most cases. They aren't out here like Will Ospreay when he had the international title and he was defending it like every other week. And the TNT title was kind of like that for a while, where it was getting defended like regularly with open challenges and things like that, where the World Championship was not being defended in that way. And so I feel like that's kind of what Okada has done with this Continental Championship, is he defends it in a very New Japan type of fashion where it's spread out and he doesn't have to defend that title, every other week or every 2 weeks or whatever. But I still feel like at some point soon he should lose that title. But perhaps they are going to do title for title at All In, and that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I think we've said enough about that, unless there's anything you want to add, and we can move on to the main event. Yay, even though this is not a pay-per-view, they finally got their main event spot. Yes, Grace said it's fine, let him do what he wants. Yeah, Okada has earned it.
Yeah, fair enough.
He has earned it.
He's Okada.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, so the women, they did get to main event, which was exciting to see. We also had Aubrey was the referee in this match. So she, I think Brad said somewhere that they made history with the all-woman main event last night, which is always cool to see. I hope that means they're going to get to main event of actual pay-per-view this year. I hope this is a sign of things to come. I hope this is foreshadowing a pay-per-view main event. These women have deserved, with the story that they have been telling for 15 months, this is what they deserve. Tony and Mariah earned that spot. Not only did they deserve it, they earned it. So we have Mariah come out first. She's in her all-in gear that she wore to beat Tony last year. And then Tony comes out and she is wearing, well, first of all, before Tony comes out, we get Luther. And Luther is dressed up as an usher, which I assume was an homage to Tony's mother, because Tony's mom used to sell hot dogs outside of that very arena to make money to help Tony in her wrestling, in the early days of her wrestling. So I assume that was, maybe it's a movie reference, which it also could be, but I don't know if that was also.
It all fits.
And also an homage. And then he points to the ramp, and here comes Tony. She gets her black and white entrance. And then when she starts going down the ramp, she's in color. And instead of wearing black, she's wearing dark blue, and she has the Australian flag on her hip, and she has the stars on her other hip. They both looked incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they stared each other down in the beginning, and just kind of, and then Mariah was like, do something. And they were doing each other's moves. Mariah did the timeless pose. We got the hip attacks. We got this, they were doing each other's finishers and stuff. I thought the match was really good. I really enjoyed the story they told. They got 15 minutes. Which doesn't really happen on Collision unless you're FTR, and then you get half-hour main events, but that's for another day. But we have Tony, as Tony won. Some people were, I don't know why. I saw a couple of people, I think it's because Brad put them in my timeline. Thanks, Brad. I'm just kidding. But apparently somebody was mad that she won with a small package roll up, and I was like, it's Tony. Like, of course, Tony. I mean, I'm not surprised Tony Storm. That's the point. They were telling you they couldn't use each other's finishers. They couldn't use their own finishers to beat each other. So she took advantage and rolled her up to win. I mean, I guess because people don't like roll-up wins in a title match, but I think for the story they have been telling, I don't
mind that, because I think it's kind of funny. I like that again, this is another outlier to me that exists where it's like, oh, quick mistake. And I mean, because that's realistic. Right. Like you you let your guard down, or you pass you wrong pass or a wrong miss, and it screws the whole thing up. And I mean, that quick.
Right. And that's
they do that a lot. And I used to be frustrated by it because sometimes it's because you blink and you miss it, and you have to roll it back.
Yeah.
But it used to bug me in New Japan, and now I kind of like love it as a device.
And that's interesting because that's kind of how a few people were saying, like, that's how Mercedes should beat that's how Harley should beat Mercedes, is Harley's not paying attention and she gets a flash pin or a quick roll up because Mercedes is underestimating her. Well, that's kind of what they did here. And Brad just pointed out, Toni used the small package since she's returned as the rookie to win every match. It makes sense. Yes. She came out. Actually, I go back to her entrance. He pointed out the ramp and she comes out to the Toni Time entrance screen and the music. And then you hear the music stop and the record scratches. And it's timeless Toni's music. And so the rookie is still in there, and she will win by whatever she needs to do to get her title back. And so we have both women winning in their home countries. They won Mariah won the title in her home country, and now Toni has turned around and she's won the title in her home country. And then Venkin says, where do you go from here if we don't do another Maria match? Or I think that's supposed to be a Mariah match.
Right. I don't know.
That was my
question.
That was our question last week, is where do you go from here? It kind of makes sense for Mariah to beat Toni twice in a row. However, it also makes sense for Toni to get her redemption arc. But Lyric, I think, probably made one of the best points, and that is we need to see who Mariah is away from Toni. Her championship always had Toni kind of lingering. Her championship run always kind of had Toni lingering in the background, or when is Toni coming back? So Mariah needs a clean break from her. Like Nikki pointed out last night, like they did with Hangman and Swerve. It's time to separate them. I could see them doing a rematch at Revolution just because she did get the roll-up pin, and I could see Mariah being like, that was unfair, whatever. They get the match at Revolution, as Fernando says, the rubber cage match at Revolution. I could see them potentially, and that's where we wrap up this feud. Not that Toni got a clean win, so I don't want to say that Toni didn't get a clean win, but let her get a decisive win over Mariah and have Mariah kind of do her own thing, get her away from Toni, let her do her own thing and figure out who she is. But then also, I think that Toni should not hold this title for a very long time. Toni has held this title 4 times now, and she's incredible, and she's a wonderful champion. However, this title has been stuck between the two of them for 15 months now. Not that it hasn't been great. It's been an incredible feud, but I think unless we get our match at Revolution, we are reaching our end point with this story for now. Just like Hangman and Swerve got their 4 matches, they're done for now. I feel like that Toni needs to drop that title within the next couple of months. Maybe not at Dynasty. Double or Nothing would be a good place for it. I don't think she should hold it till All In. Some people have advocated for that, but I think they need to go into All In with a different. I would. And then you've got Chris Statlander. And I'd like to see Chris and Willow go for that title because they've already lost. I mean, they of course have gone for the women's championship too, but like they've done all they can do right now in the TBS title picture. I would like to see them face Toni. There's Thunder Rosa, who, that whole thing with her. You've got, Megan Bain, but I think Megan right now is not in a place where she should. I mean, maybe I would, she's right now kind of just saying who she is and like she's making her presence known. I mean, you could even run it back with Nyla. Nyla hasn't been in the title picture for a really long time. She could come in and at least get some matches in. So, I mean, there's plenty of women that I think that Toni could elevate. And I think that being a transitional champion for Tony is not going to hurt her as a 4-time women's champion.
Oh, definitely not.
So what are your thoughts on this? You think they do this at Revolution, or do you think they're done, or kind of what are your thoughts here?
See, I wanted to talk to you about it because I'm just not sure like what's next. But I agree with the idea of Mariah getting off on her own, like going and doing something that is her own thing, that isn't like, all good stories have an ending and you move on. And I mean, maybe run it back at Revolution, maybe do it sooner, because I mean, although March 9th is pretty close, so maybe you just take care of the business and finish up and sort of make sure that it's like, well, I can't deal with you right now or whatever. And now we start a new storyline with, I mean, there's plenty of other women out there to have stories with, that there are burgeoning stories to, because there are a lot of the Japanese women and the crossover shows. And I love this and I wish it could go on forever, but I think things they play out, they have their time. And I think this is coming to its end. And I don't know, how many times do people want, if people want to see Mariah and Tony one more time, then yes, obviously you book Mariah and Tony one more time.
Yeah, and Brad makes a good point that, give Mariah a rematch since it's 1-1. Mariah loses again and she goes away from Tony while Tony gets the short title run, which I'm okay with that. If that's how they want to play this story, let it go to Revolution, because like you said, Revolution is just a few weeks away. Let them end it for good, not for good, but for now, in this chapter now. And then Maria, this would be great. A last woman standing match would be an excellent finish to the story.
I'm into that.
I would like that. And then Fernando says May could feud with Willow or Deanna. Or I'm sorry, she said, or maybe after this feud, Willow or Deanna should be the next for Timeless Tony. Yeah, I mean, Deanna is definitely somebody that should be in the title picture. I mean, she was originally, she had a title match at Revolution. She had a title match. Wait, was it Revolution that she had her title match? I think it was. Or maybe it was Dynasty. It was like right around that time. But she had a title shot. And then they've been kind of spinning their wheels with the Vendetta. Except for the Vendetta have also been, they've been hinting at adding a new member. Because the last couple times they said, they were like, where something's still missing, and she was like, let's go talk about it. And then they made the reference again. So it feels like they're going to add someone to the Vendetta, which would be interesting to see. And then Nikki makes a really good point, because she could see that Hayter feuding with Tony next.
Yeah, because they're still going to London at some point, I guess, but that's a really long run.
Yeah, that's not till August. And Tony does not need.
I don't think that'll work quite that, but
the audio was sounding weird in my ear.
That's okay.
But yeah, I don't want Tony to hold the title till August, so they could do.
But Jamie Hayter could win it for sure.
Yeah, they could do that. They could
certainly someone they could put it on. I mean,
and people like her, like she's a fan favorite.
I feel like Tony and Mariah are elevated now, so they need to be elevating other people, some like other women. So now they need to take what they've got and run with it in the division to build the division.
And I think somebody in the comments said something about Julia being next in getting a shot at the TBS championship, which I think would be a good one that they could do in the next couple of months, is getting Julia, because Julia is a former TBS champion, and she had to drop the title due to injury. So they could definitely run that back at some point. So I hope that they wrap this story up. Like, I wouldn't go past Revolution. Like, if they're gonna continue it a little bit longer, then Revolution is your end game.
Well, you don't want to wreck it by dragging it out for too long. Right. It's just like a TV show, or at some point you got to end it. Like, otherwise it just feels like you drag it out and then you end up with the wrong ending or something.
Yes. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Maria, that's what it was. I think that's what I read. I forgot. Maria was saying Harley and Julia should feud next. That's what it was. Well, that would be fun. Their dynamics, especially because of Julia's character and then Harley's character, that would be a lot of fun, I think.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah, and
I'm
that's
into
somebody
that.
she needs. Mercedes, I don't say that, like, Mercedes is obviously one of the highest feuds you can get. So you need to have her in there with somebody else who is upper. And Julie is a former champion. So that could be a good feud for her. And then you have, because you have like Serena Deeb is there, but she's focused on Queen Aminata. So they're still kind of telling that story. So there's so many different women. You could bring back Emi Sakura for me.
Yes.
They showed her last night in a clip for something. I know she's busy with Choco Pro, but I was like, can you please bring her back? Brad said he needs for the PWT to sell the Mercedes Muppet.
Agree.
Mercedes Muppet is funny.
I love that thing. I want one. I shamelessly want one, Brad. I'm with you.
That would be fun. So I thought Grand Slam was a really great show. They've already announced that they're coming back in 2026, which is great. And we're really getting into our road to Revolution. It's going to be interesting to see where we go with both women's titles. Who comes for Mercedes next? And like you said, make sure Harley doesn't drop off. Like, you've got to do that. What do we do with Mariah and Tony? Do we run it back one more time? If not, what do we do with, where do they go from here? And then, like, who's next for Okada? Because if they are going to have Buddy, Hounds of Hell eventually get the tag titles, then, and he did kind of get in that page where Okada, again, like where we said, he wasn't defending for a while. Also, he was on paternity leave for a little bit, so he was gone. Earlier in the year with that. And so it'll be interesting to see. Maria says Mercedes Puppet versus Mr. Sacco. I could see that happening at a convention. That sounds like something they do at Starrcast.
Starrcade. Oh yeah.
They're going to do Starrcast all in weekend. They could do that there.
That'd be pretty funny.
Yes, AEW does need to keep Harley at all costs. I 100% agree with that. And I'm excited to see where she goes from here. But I guess before we wrap things up, we will talk about New Japan a little bit because a lot happened. But New Japan had an incredible show on Tuesday. It was the New Beginnings show, and we had 5 title matches, I believe, on that card.
Something like that.
Yeah, and it was a really great show. New Japan is definitely firing on all cylinders.
New Japan is back, ladies and gentlemen. It is back. I don't know if it's quite at 2019 levels yet, but it's sure on its way. I felt like what a good show that was. I watched the whole thing. I was excited about the whole thing. Clark Connors is hilarious on commentary.
There was one picture somebody posted, and Clark Connors was standing in his chair, and I don't know if that was the Gabe Tsuji match or if that was the main event. And Walker quote tweeted and said he was like this all night, and he was passionate, and I loved it.
Walker did a great job because I know that he's in a weird situation. You can tell that he's seriously trying to learn Japanese.
He's been trying to, even before the Chris Troughton situation happened, he was already,
which I think is really cool because
he was using Duolingo and another app, that he was saying that it was only given him so much, and was reaching out to people, asking people what else should I do to learn. And he was kind of translating here and there, especially after the main event. And
you can understand small phrases and stuff, which was, that's impressive. It's a short, again, he could have been doing this for 3 years for all I know. I have no idea, but I appreciate the effort. And I think Steven was telling us that they appreciate the effort too. So
yeah. And he even in the post-match comments, he translated some of it, and he went on Twitter later and was like, thank you for all the kind words. He's like, I have limited knowledge, and I'm just, was trying to help out how I could. And I thought he did a really good job with it. It was nice to see. I am glad that Chris will be back in time for the New Japan Cup because the Cup is a lot. The tournament, I mean, it's not the G1, but it is a lot. That would be a lot for Walker to do by himself,
alone
trying to
or with people.
I mean,
that
even
are
with
like,
having like your Jeff Cobbs and your Clarks on commentary, like you still need you need someone to help translate in real time. And that would be, I think, a lot for him to do. And so I'm glad that Chris will be back by the time the Cup starts. I thought the show was great overall. I really, so the person that was spoiled for me was Yuya Uemura is back, which was nice. He got a really nice pop. The fans were happy to see him. I hope he is finally, because it seemed like he was kind of in the place where Shooter is now. Kind of having some issues trying to figure out who he was and how he fit into New Japan, because Yuya went on an excursion and was in TNA, and it's kind of having to get back into the New Japan scene. Then he was injured during the G1, and he had to forfeit. He had to forfeit like the last few matches.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now.
Yeah. Because he hurt his. Wait, it's Yuya, right? That's who I'm not. I don't think I'm confusing with him with somebody else. I think I'm thinking of the correct person. Not telling you the wrong information here, but if I remember correctly, Yuya was hurt. Didn't he hurt his shoulder really bad, or am I confusing him with Shooter?
I'm not sure.
Shooter got injured too, right? Brad, if you are still here, or
Brad.
because I'm doubting myself, and I'm like, wait, am I confusing him with somebody else? Because it was last G1 and my brain is
that's a long time ago.
Yeah, a lot of wrestling has happened since then.
A lot of things happen. A lot.
Yeah, a lot of things. So,
but
regardless.
What I like about this whole show, though, is especially the young guys stepping up. And if you didn't see them, there were a couple of Road 2 shows that led up to this.
I still need to go back and watch those 2 matches.
You need to watch the El Phantasmo and Shingo Takagi and Despy versus Fujita.
Yeah.
El Desperado versus Kosei Fujita.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, that Despy Koji, like Ichiban Sweet Boy, 5 ever. Oh, that kid is going to be. Watch that match, then remember he's 23 and imagine him in 10 years. Like,
I will do that.
Madness. It is. Yeah. Those are 2 of the best of Super Juniors is going to be off the hook.
Wait.
It is going to be so good this year. Yeah. I mean, those 2 matches, if you didn't see those were the 2 shows that led up to the actual New Beginning show.
Mm-hmm.
Those Road 2 shows, I've got them they went right in my journal, man, for this year. But that Phantasmo versus El Phantasmo versus Shingo Takagi and Desperado versus Kosei Fujita. Great matches, really good matches. I mean, and even Jeff Cobb being on commentary actually enhanced them quite a lot, and especially the Fujita one.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine.
It's a lot of fun to see the kids that Minoru Suzuki, like Zack Sabre obviously was, in Suzuki-gun, and you see how his mentor is in his wrestling, but yet how he is of himself.
Yeah.
But there's some times when you see some slap matches and you're like, I'm so glad you're still here, Murder Grandpa. You've left your mark on these kids. I love it.
It is good to see. And then you have Fujita, who is definitely being taken under the wing of Zach, as well as Oiwa as well.
Oiwa, yeah. They're
both of them. And Zach has definitely taken them under his wing. And I can only imagine how much his guidance is going to mean to them over the
I think the next few months, now that he's sort of in the he's in the fringes now. I think that he will. My friend and I decided that we believe that. Don't start, Brad. Don't start that now. Oleg Bolton or Bolton Oleg.
Walker explained it.
I know it's hilarious.
Did explain it.
No, don't start that though. So yeah, He is a great wrestler, though, if you can figure out his name and if you're not freaked out about the fact that he took the moniker of the fact that the Japanese do the surnames first, and so he's just going by that.
Yeah.
I think if you called him by either name, he probably would answer.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with this, Brad. The future of New Japan is totally fine. The talent they have is already insane. Yeah, and people need to remember that a lot of these guys got elevated because they lost a lot of their talent to places like New Japan and places like AEW and otherwise. These kids have stepped the F up.
They have.
I feel so excited.
I feel like part of it is, I mean, not that they wouldn't anyway, but I feel like part of it is because Tana asked it of them. And Tana is somebody who is so revered in New Japan as both a talent and now as president that he needed them to step up, to move to the next level. And I feel like they wanted to do that for Tana, and he's being rewarded.
He spent all that time with Gabe Kidd. You saw that interview, right? Or did we talk about it?
I saw I did see. I saw the screenshot of.
But where he essentially said that part of the reason that was an actual Tana's reaction to him crying was something of an actual reaction because once they said that match between him and Kenny was going to happen, Tana was giving him at least an hour every single day.
Well, no, actually, no. It was before that. It was back when Gabe was having his mental health episodes. So this was back a few years ago because Gabe has been open about
his mental health.
A few years ago, he was in a place getting help, and while he was there getting help, he tried to end his life. And he was while he was there, he talked to Tana every single day for an hour. And Tana helped him come through that. So that is why we got the reaction from Tana there, because he saw this full circle moment from Gabe struggling so bad to the point where Gabe was almost not here, to having this match with Kenny Omega, to the fans booing Kenny Omega to cheer Gabe Kidd, which is a huge thing. And so
that guy's gonna win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship if he keeps it up.
Yes. I just hope he I'll not talk about that now because we're talking positively. I know. But Brad says that losing Okada and Will might have been the best thing for New Japan. It forced Gato to think outside the box with booking, and now it's working. Yeah, they struggled for a little bit, but they were kind of thrown into it and have to figure it out. And Steven and Jeremy have long said Wrestle Kingdom 19 and Wrestle Kingdom 20 are a two-part story. What happened at Wrestle Kingdom this year is going to come back around to complete the story for WrestleMania 20. And the story in between that is them getting there. And I feel like, I think, Brad has a point that, it did force them to have to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And
they know how to pivot.
And they do know how to pivot. Ghetto, I still don't understand. I think some people, forget because of the stuff that happened with Evil when he was champion, and that was not a great title run. But also COVID was happening during that time, and things were weird. But so people doubt Ghetto, like he wasn't behind this whole Okada thing for years. Like he wasn't the one who put Jay White where he was. Oh my God,
yeah.
Like Gato was behind both of those things. He is behind Finley getting to.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's showing back up now because there's new blood in the water for him to come elevate that person and be their mentor and do the things that he's done for always and ever.
Right. And then you see that with Finley, and Finley stepped and he told Jay White, if you are stupid enough to leave this spot, then I'm taking everything that you are leaving. And it took some time, but he finally got there and it paid off. And now Finley is one of their top heels in that company, in a place where he would not, if in WWE and even AEW, Finley would not be booked that way. Finley would not be one of your top heels. He is in the perfect spot, and Gato helped book him there. And yeah, of course, there's missteps, but every company has missteps in the way that they book things. But I think overall, it's gotten to them to this place that they are now, where they are very healthy and they're telling these stories. They're pushing these new talent. They're pushing
Gang
the
audience
next
is back in the buildings. Is the greatest thing that ever happened.
Right. Maria says Tony needs to take lessons from New Japan on how to pivot. Yes.
He sure does. And you know
100%.
what bugs me is he's been hanging out with those guys now for most of the tenure of, like, I mean, it took a minute because there was the beef and all the stuff had to be brushed away and
and that we had to, that former president that was there at the time that was mad at everybody.
But now we're back to normal and everything's been good for probably 2-3 years. But this is, again, we had the conversation and we've been having it. Was last year New Japan needed an AEW. It's going to be this year is thank you, Adam. This year is going to be AEW needing New Japan a little bit at Forbidden Door.
Right. And also, I will say before I put this up, that reminded me when we were talking about the other person. Somebody had a sign last week that says Omega fears Ogawa. And I was like, are they talking about Rossi Ogawa? Because no, I was like, did Ogawa pay somebody to use that sign? Because I do not think that is the case. I just remembered when we were talking about who used to be there before, and it made me think about that. Thank you for this. So shout out to my favorite Twitter timekeeper. Squash matches, winners ain't effing around. No, especially if the name is Megan Bain. And this is a great podcast. Y'all have me hyped for Athena winning her way onto the AEW roster after rebuilding ROH. Listen, it better happen, or I'm gonna have been talking about this for 800 days. For basically
Sam is with you 100%. She's with you. Thank you very much. That's wonderful.
Yes,
she is 100% with you. She is. Sam is
truly.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. There's nothing more to say. She's right there with you. Sam has been banging the Athena drum for a very long time, and rightly so. I mean, absolutely.
But Adam has been there with me.
Yeah,
making sure that, and with these timekeepers, with it always with the not effing around. They don't, as Taz says, they do not get paid by the hour.
It's true. It's so true.
In and out. Well, and then we even had Mariah. Was it last week that Mariah had like a 30-second? Oh yeah, she had the 30-second match with Shay Carmichael because they had her dressed kind of like.
And then there was the one with Maya World that lasted about 5 seconds.
Yes,
which to her credit, she put on it. I mean, she worked her ass off for that few minutes.
Maya is Athena's protege.
I did not know this.
Mm-hmm. Maya has wrestled. She's been wrestling for a Reality of Wrestling for a while. I'm not sure if she's still there, but I know that she trains with Athena some and has been for a few years. And then she had a proving ground match with Athena back in 2023. And they've used her periodically. Usually when they go to Texas, they try to bring her in. I've seen her. Ashe brought her in last summer. Nice. In a 4-way match. So Maya's definitely somebody to keep your eye on.
I mean, she made the most of her TV time.
She sure did. Did.
I was like, okay. I mean, enhancement match notwithstanding. I think but I was like, oh, nice. Yes, seeing people take. You got to take your shot. You get that 5 seconds. Like, take it.
Right. And so that's Maya World is definitely somebody to keep your eye on, for sure. Especially when you've got somebody like Athena in your corner. I feel like Athena doesn't just do that to anybody, I
agree with you.
I feel like if Athena is putting her stamp of approval on you, there's good reason for it. And she proved it the other day. Yes. Maximize your minutes. 100%. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You take your shot when you get it. You never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then look at how that led. I mean, that led Athena to getting her Stardom matches that she's wanted for 17 years. The first time in her 17-year career, she finally got to wrestle in Japan this year.
Which is wild where we are in wrestling. It's actually kind of like very first world, we are pretty blessed. We are living in a blessed wrestling time. There's so much of it that we complain about it excessively. Not we but in general, we.
That is true. And like we've talked about, we've spent a lot of time on Grand Slam and stuff like that, but New Japan had an incredible show. Goto is the G in IWGP. He finally won his title. Speaking of 17 years, I believe, if I am remembering correctly, it took him 17 years between winning the G1 and winning the championship. But now every single G1 winner has eventually gone on to be the IWGP champion, I believe is the stat that I heard the other day, which is crazy. And I'm so happy for Goto. This was the perfect time for him. If you're, like I said last week, if you're going to do it now. You have so many people waiting in the rings. Tsuji clearly is doing his own thing with the global title. Tsuji had a really great match with Gabe Kidd right before Zach and Goto. And I thought one of the things I thought was really interesting is Zach went for the Zach driver minutes into the match. He does not do that. And he couldn't. And then he did it. He went for it a second time just a couple minutes later. I felt like Zach really felt like Goto was an actual threat to him. Like he was not overlooking Goto. Like he was like, I have to pull out everything to try to retain this title against Goto. And it still wasn't enough. And Goto, and I love that he had Yoshihashi was the one who came in and fastened the belt around his waist. He got his kids in there.
Oh my God, I almost was like...
and how he was bragging on his kids about how, because I saw the English translation later, he was talking about how good they are and how great they're doing in school, and his daughter, I guess, is in dance and how she's doing really well like that.
Okay.
And he says that this match was obviously for his dad. His dad passed, I think, a couple of years ago, and he said that I was always an idiot for wrestling, but this idiot is champion, and it's finally paid off, and he dedicated the match to his dad. And I felt like the fans were super into him all match long, and this is a fan base that loves Zack Sabre Jr., and they were behind Goto. And wanted
I'm
Goto.
A fan base. I'm not. It's me. I'm the fan base.
Yes, I'm here for the Goto revolution, and that is someone. I say that as someone who loves Zack Sabre Jr.
I mean, in my heart of hearts, I didn't necessarily want him to lose, but in my wrestling logic, this is the time. Yeah. And of course, because Zach is who he is, he knew the gravity of the moment, so he did what he does. Even in losing, he is one of the absolute freaking best wrestlers on this planet. He is the man. It doesn't matter that he's not champion. It's so irrelevant.
Because he at this moment, yes, you can argue it's a 4.5 months picture, but he did everything he set out to do last year. He capped it off by winning.
He's literally done everything he set out to do. So him being around, putting over young guys is going to be the greatest thing in the universe.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be the next Suzuki.
And Zach can be champion again. I don't think this is Zach's one and only time to be champion. I think it depends on how things play out, but I feel like Zach will be champion again.
I think
which is another reason I feel like he didn't have an issue with, and it's Goto. Who has a problem putting Goto over? Hiroki Goto is incredible.
And even if he has a short run, it doesn't freaking matter, because this is something that he's been a staple of New Japan for, obviously, like you said, 17 years, he long predates me in being participating in the sport. So
right. And so, Josiah even pointed out, he was like, Goto looks like he's in his mid-30s. He doesn't look like he's a guy that's been around as long as he has. And he was like, and he wrestled, he's still a great wrestler. We saw the fan support behind him between the Cup and the G1 last year, to the point where people almost we were excited for Zach, but also it would have been maybe we
it's one of those times where we would have been okay either way.
So I feel like they kind of rewarded him for that, and the fan base. The fans have been behind Goto and wanted him to win. I don't feel it wasn't a fluke win. It was a definitive win over Zach. And I felt like I thought it was really well done. And Jeremy said it last week that sometimes transitional champion is a dirty word, and it doesn't necessarily need to be one, especially in New Japan, where their title reigns are a bit different than how our American title reigns are typically presented. And I think that Goto would be fine as a transitional champion. And if it is, say, David Finlay who takes the title off of him, like, it's not going to be, it's not anything, it's not saying that Goto can't be, you know, Goto's not worth it. Like, we don't want him long term. Like, I just feel like he will be fine as a transitional champion. I'm really glad that he got this moment because he deserved it, and the fans, he earned it, and the fans wanted it, and Zach he got to cap off his incredible year, and I think, you know, it was good for everybody. And Brad pointed out here that that Goto has won pretty much everything there is to win, every title there is, including a junior tag titles, every tournament, G1, New Japan Cup, Tag League, Super J Cup. He's done it all now, which is incredible. Yeah, I think so. He's a Grand Slam champion. Really,
yeah, you
like,
kind of, I mean, in a way,
like
it
more
almost,
more than a Grand Slam champion.
I guess this was like over. I mean, it's good that this is good. This is the right thing at the right time. I feel good about it.
Agreed. I'm here for the Goto revolution.
I'm
Brad
good.
says he bet ZSJ told Goto he was going to put Goto over. Oh, I 100%.
I wouldn't even be. You know what, Brad? I'm right there with you. I wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't. Me either.
And Zach gets it. Like, it's pretty
especially
clear at this
in the way that match was handled. Again, with Zach going for the Zach driver early in the match tells me that he thinks that Goto is a threat to him, and he knew that Goto was a legitimate threat to dethroning him, and he did. And so I appreciate Zach giving him that. Not that Goto didn't, because Goto was incredible in that match too. And the match was really, really great. And then Maria says that Zach conducted very good business versus Goto. I 100% agree.
Yep.
And then we also have, we did get the new tag team champions. Hiramu and Naito beat the Young Bucks, which I think that's where they were going with this. And I had mentioned a few months ago that I think going the tag team route is the best thing for Hiramu and Naito, because Naito's poor knees are between that and his vision. Naito was clearly not the wrestler he used to be. And
Hiramu is very good.
Yes, and being in a tag team protects Naito. He doesn't have to be as active. Hiramu has all the energy in the world, and Hiramu can take, and that's what happened in this match. Hiramu took most of it. He was in that match more than Naito was. Naito was only in it a few minutes. Naito did what he needed to do. And then Hiramu was he took the lead and was protecting him. And they were, I saw in the post-match thing later on Twitter, and Naito kept calling him the leader. And he was like, well, you're the leader now. And he was like, you're the boss, you make the rules. And it was just a really funny back and forth. And Hiramu is very excited, as he is. And he's yelling throughout the promo, because that's just how, it was really cool to see. And I feel like the tag team route is the best thing for them, because as Jeremy, I think it was, I think it was Steven, that when Naito decides he's done, he's done. He's probably just gonna we're not gonna get a year-long retirement like Tana. We may not even get an official retirement match. He may just come to the building, have a match, and be like, you know what? That was it. I'm done.
That is kind of like, in a way, that's like the most Naito way to end it. I mean, we're talking about a guy who like put the international comment, like let me try and say it, the Intercontinental Championship in a trash can, or
and he
would just lay in the ring and be like, screw you, or take
toss it. He would swing it and throw it, and it was battered. He had
it, but he hated it. And I mean, it kind of like,
he had a love-hate relationship with it. It was it was to the point where that belt was tattered. Like the belt was scuffed up. The straps were like ripped and beaten up, and it would be a very Naito.
It kind of would be the most Naito way for him to just be like, I'm done. Screw this.
Yeah,
wrestling's stupid. I don't know why I even bothered.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be. Yeah, I could see them just dropping the titles, and then him be like, you know what, Hiramu, you go be global champion now.
Yeah. Sorry, handicap match. Fight for these. Whatever.
Yeah. Brad says Naito will be there one night, then no one will see him ever again until he shows up at a baseball game throwing out the first pitch, and then he'll never be seen again. Yeah. And Hiromu will be
tough
the
the
only,
Magic Dragon. He's
and
gone.
then Hiromu will be the only one who ever hears from him. Like every few months, Hiromu will be like, yeah, I talked to Naito, he's great, or I went to see him, he's fine, and or he just becomes this mythological creature that, remember when Naito used to wrestle and he was one of the greatest of all time, and then he just left one day, kind of like apparently how Yano used to be super serious, and now he's not. He's very funny, and that serious person doesn't exist. That's kind of how Naito's gonna be. He used to be this really great wrestler, and one day he just decided he was done, and we never saw him again. He's probably living like up in the mountains somewhere, and ventures out every once in a while. There's rumors about him. Some myths will probably get told about him, like there's the old man Naito who lives at the edge of the woods.
He lives outside the ballpark in the in the temple up in the trees.
Yes. People have said there are rumors of him that that he could be seen yelling from the window.
That during the 7th inning stretch when they play his music, you can see him standing up going like this.
Yes, exactly. I definitely, that is the lore I'm here for. If that's how Naito chooses to go out, then I will accept it from him.
It's canon.
If he doesn't want a retirement match and just decides my last match is my last match, I will accept it. I will be sad because I love him, but I will accept Naito leaving in the most Naito way possible.
Exactly right.
And I feel like Hiromu is in a place where he can protect him now. And I feel like Hiromu wants to do this for him. I feel like he's like, I know that you're struggling. Let me be the one. Let me take the lead. Let me spend a majority of the time in the match. You come in, do your few spots, and I'll handle the rest, and we'll be good.
I mean, Hiromu has leveled up so much and so it's like the least you can do for the guy at this point, I would think, is like very respectful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome and hilarious. Thank you. We have kept you here for 3 hours. And I think we covered everything. New Japan was great.
It was very good. Seek that out. Great. Grand Slam was excellent.
And then we'll be here next Sunday talking about who knows what. We're on the road to Revolution now, so I'm sure that's going to unfold more. Maybe we'll have a clearer picture of what's happening with the women. Speedball is still out there somewhere. Josh Alexander might be too. I heard Vengeance Day was good. I did not see it. I was out to dinner with my dad, but I heard it was very good. I saw a clip of Ethan Page. He wrestled Javon Evans, and he punched him so hard that his mouth guard went flying out. Like, that's how hard he punched him. Nice. And he won the match. I did hear the women main evented. The 4-way match I heard was very, very good. It was Julia was defending her title against Roxanne, Bailey, and Cora Jade. I heard it was really, really good. Julia won the North American Women's title last night. A new faction did debut. I know because I'm not super up to date with NXT because it's not something I follow closely. I do know that Saquon is in that. Saquon Sugars, he's the former Lucky Ali who used to wrestle here and locally, and he was in DPW with Javon Evans, who's the former Jay Malachi. So I'm glad that he got injured pretty early in his WWE stint. He is back now. So they showed up. Our friend Carl Fredericks, the former Carl Fredericks, who is now Eddie Thorpe, he beat Trick Williams in a strap match. I did see that. So I heard NXT was a really good show. My friend Dina went, and she's a huge NXT fan, but she said she had a blast. She said it was a really great show.
Good.
Fernando says that Vengeance Day was fire. Brad says Retribution 2.0 is going to slap so hard.
Awesome.
Vinkin said people hated that strap match. Yeah, apparently Eddie Thorpe is not getting over in the way that, I've heard there's a lot of mixed reactions on Eddie Thorpe. And Trick is really popular. Yes, the era of grace has begun because the show ended with Julia and Stephanie in the ring, and then Jordan came out and got in the ring, and it was the three of them. And it's exciting to see women's wrestling thriving in many places. And I'm excited, even though I'm not a frequent NXT watcher, I'm excited for those fans. I'm excited for women's wrestling at NXT because they're doing some incredible things. And they've got some incredible talent there. And it seems like Shawn Michaels actually knows how to book women. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. A black guy getting whipped during Black History Month didn't go over well.
Okay, out of context, I can understand that. I don't know. I can't speak to it because I didn't see it, but if out of context, that doesn't sound great.
Yeah, I could. And because that's a
let's not get ourselves in trouble.
That's a rough thing and not a smart thing. Fernando says Eddie is not catching on in NXT. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. That he's having a hard time.
That's unfortunate because
we are big. We love Carl Fredericks, and he was doing some really good things in New Japan. And then I understand he felt slighted of the G1, and he felt like he wasn't getting. And that was kind of a time where a lot of them kind of felt that way, like your Clark Connors and things like that. And he made a decision he thought was best for him, and hopefully he's happy, but it does seem like he's having a hard time. And Vinkins says that Shawn Michaels knows 6 matches is perfect. Yes, and we'll be here for another day, but there's also some reasons why they're doing it that way, and that's so they don't have to pay people because of the way MXM talked about it, about how the bucket pay system that they do. And it basically less matches means. Yeah, we've talked about it on here before. But yeah, it's a bucket system that they pay into, and they explain it really well. It's out there on the intranets. But yeah, so basically the 6 matches is good, but also it's to avoid paying people. And so they book less matches, so they have to pay less people.
Imagine that, a corporation trying to stiff its employees off its money. I've never heard of such a thing.
Fernando says, excellent review. You crushed it again, ladies. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for staying. Thank you for staying with us. We will go ahead and wrap it up since you've been here with us before.
Yeah, and real quick, shout out to Adam Legend who gave us that $10. That will be our first $10 towards our invitation to Lowe's special event that is taking place for WrestleMania weekend. We incredibly appreciate that. And so there's our first $10 towards our invitation to that. And we appreciate that. And we appreciate
we do.
All you guys.
Yes,
no
and
matter
if you're watching us on
you don't have to give us money for us.
You do not have, exactly. You do not have to buy.
It's just another gifting. It's helping us in this space, and it's helping us help Low, who we love, and that's great. And super duper appreciate that, and all of you guys always, and helping us keep our brains intact because otherwise Sam and I would be going. We'd be like on our phones going, Bill.
Yes, we appreciate you helping us out because there's so much wrestling information that sometimes it just falls on out.
Sorry. And Sam is working like 1,000 different jobs, so it's hard to argue. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Let's get out of here.
So you guys leaving this time.
We're really getting out of here, and we really appreciate you guys, and we will really see you next week at 1 p.m. ish on Wizard Time.
Yes.
And that's it.